Welcome in to Check the Mic. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson. We are live on YouTube. Oh, man, I forgot the studio name.
Uh-oh.
Did it again. Let's go back to today. Today will be the Antonio Cromartie studio in part with Huggies. Mm-hmm. We'll double up on the Brady Belichick Mahomes one again.
Thank you.
Because I didn't have it in front of me.
Our billionaires, we're going back and forth.
It's all brought to you by FanDuel. Yeah, that's right. We have billionaires who have invested to name our studio and alternate names. It's Wild Card Weekend, Sam.
Super.
That's right. It's Super Wild Card Weekend, the 5th annual.
Don't you dare shortchange Wild Card Weekend.
Fifth Wild Card Weekend.
Whenever they made it super.
I believe. Super Wild Card Weekend. That means 6 games. For those kids who don't remember, Wild Card Weekend used to be a mere 4 games. Then it became Super.
2 teams used to have a bye in each conference.
Felt right, by the way. But
Felt right.
Extra football, so it's good. So we have 6 games, so we'll do about an hour a game. We'll be here for 6 hours.
Great.
Knock them all out. Did you want to give us a picks update for the regular season?
Like
the Sleeper app and everybody in the
conclusion?
Discord. It does not go through the playoffs.
No. Well, we mentioned the other day on our yesterday on our Wednesday show.
Different audience, but yesterday was great.
We did, in fact, get a resolution to the Survivor pool. We had a winner, Jason something or other, who was in the chat yesterday. He won. There were 3 people going into the final week. We were curious what would happen if all 3 people won in the final week. I don't have to worry. So Jason won. He's going to get some merch as soon as he emails checkthemic at the3013.com so we can send him something out. Congratulations to Jason who won the Survivor pool. The Pick'em pool went down all the way. I finished tied for 17th with a record of 147 wins. Fell off in the last couple of weeks with a couple of disasters. But it was a tie, actually, for the lead. Josh Zodi and Maddox29 both finished 4 clear of anybody else with 156. What about you and the boy?
Oh, you're asking me where I am?
Yes, because you know that.
I finished tied for 174th.
Okay.
After a late rally.
Yeah.
Going 13-3.
Right.
The last week. So that was – I jumped about 50 slots. Which means – I was thinking I'm like rookie year Sam Darnold. Remember Geno Smith was Mr.
Like
Week
the
18?
Final, Mr. December.
There was a point in Geno Smith's career where the only good games he'd had was the last week of the season.
Yeah.
Joe Milton, insert your favorite Week 18
Right, 1 week at the end of the season.
That's me. Harry finished tied for 201st with 131. So I finished ahead of Harry by 2. 133 wins to 131 for him.
Yeah, you, in fact, Oh, no, you didn't. You were second in the week. And they do this weird points thing that I don't quite understand. You were second this week.
Yeah, I don't know where those points come from.
Yeah.
Still haven't figured it out. Just pick my games.
But despite that phenomenal week, we're still nowhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Josh Zodi and Maddox29 also need to email checkthemic at the3013.com to stake a claim to some merch. And we'll send stuff out.
We have 3 things we're sending out?
Yeah, 3 winners.
2 co-winners.
2, yeah, exactly.
And
A shared
Survivor.
winner and a solo
Fantastic.
winner.
Well, congrats. That was fun. So we have nothing to pick for I got Harry's picks for the playoffs anyway, just so the people know.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to be making picks. They just no longer count in the Sleeper app.
They don't count for Sleeper. All right, man. You ready to go?
Yep.
Before we start, though, remember yesterday we talked all the coach firings, and it was more, again, when we talk about topics.
Did we get anybody else fired?
Not in the last 24 hours, which is great. Todd Bowles officially back. I think that did happen in the last 24 hours. That it was announced that he's back with the Bucs. I think we theorized it might not happen. So that definitely happened. But when we talk about those things, it's not just the topic, right? We talk team building. We get in the weeds about a lot of stuff. So I think you'll enjoy yesterday's conversations. All right, let's get into it. Super Wild Card Weekend. It all starts Saturday afternoon at 4:30. The Los Angeles Rams at the Carolina Panthers. Pour one out for the Houston Texans. Pour one out for the Texans. This is their spot. This is their slot in the playoff hierarchy. They've been promoted to Monday Night Football.
Yeah, which means they have to go up against Tomlin's Monday Night Football record. So not only do they miss out on the slot that should rightfully be theirs Saturday afternoon, but they also have to play on Monday night against Tomlin.
They do, and I don't know what to do with that.
Right.
I'm not sure. We'll get there.
I wonder, is that genuinely baked into that line? Because it does seem closer than I was expecting.
I think so. We'll get there. It's the 6th game we'll talk about.
At some point.
But right now, we're talking Rams-Panthers. The Rams are favored by 10.5, over under 46.5 per FanDuel. Of course, these teams played just a few weeks back, and it was the Panthers.
It was.
Who pulled the upset and got the win. Can they do it again, Sam?
I would doubt it. Like, they shouldn't have done it the last time. I mean, remember, that was the game where we kind of predicted they would win, but for no reason other than it made no sense.
And this is why. At the time, so it was week 13, the Panthers were in this win one, lose one mode, right? They had lost to the Bills 40-9. Then they snuck a win against the Packers, a big upset at the time because the Packers were hot. And it was like, all right, Panthers can beat good teams. They're for real. Then they lose to the Saints 17-7 before the Saints were feisty. I think that was the Saints' second win. Then they beat the Falcons 30-27 with a big comeback and Bryce Young going nuts. And then they lose to the Niners. This is the Panthers. They lose to the Niners 20-9. Offense has zero chance on Monday Night Football against the Niners. So they're in this win one, lose one, impressive win, disastrous loss. And we joked, well, it's time for them to beat the Rams, right? The Rams at the time, November 30th, 2025, Thanksgiving weekend. The Rams were sitting atop everyone's power polls, power rankings.
People had just declared them basically that week the best team in the NFL.
They're the best team in the NFL. I think they had just beaten the Seahawks. Had they done that? No, they had already beaten the Seahawks. Like, they were the best team in the NFL. And Carolina goes and beats them 31-28. They created some big plays, forced a couple Matthew Stafford interceptions, a fumble. And by the way, the Rams were in field goal range, right? If you were making the case against Matthew Stafford, you might go back to this game and say, not only were his end zone interception, another interception later, but in the red zone with a game-tying field goal in hand, Stafford fumbles the ball, turns it over, Panthers pick it up, and then run the clock, and that's it. So that's what happened. That was a quick synopsis. I called it a 5-play sequence that won it for Carolina. The 3 turnovers and a couple fourth down, huge plays by Carolina that led to touchdowns or were touchdowns immediately. So that's what happened last time, 31-28, the Panthers won.
Interestingly, the line is exactly the same as it was the last time, 10.5 points. The last time they played when Carolina won. Now, that's at the point that got put into the spreadsheet as opposed to whenever it closed or opened. But at some point, the lines were basically exactly the same. So despite the fact that Carolina has already won this football game this season, Vegas is like, that was improbable, ridiculous, and will not happen again. And the line is exactly the same as it was the first time around.
That's the funny thing about football, man, right? And doing power rankings or, say, college football. College football is all about resume. Well, if you beat this team before, you must be better, and you got to be ranked higher. And I mean, that's what college football.
Well, that's why that concept is utterly stupid. It's like you can lose a game like that, and it mean basically nothing for the quality of your football team. Like, you have to count it somehow because that's the whole point of all this. But Vegas is literally saying that game last time around, record-wise, is effectively meaningless. They are coming in and saying, if we ran this game again, exactly the same, the Rams will win it just like we thought they would win it the last time. And the fact that they didn't doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And yet the college football playoffs or whatever will be like, well, we got to drop this team down 58 spots because of that. You're like, all right.
That's how we do it. Matthew Stafford, as I mentioned in this game, had the 2 picks and the fumble. If you were to look at his season, this was the only game, or one of 2 games, where he had multiple interceptions. The other one was against the other NFC South power, the Atlanta Falcons. It was the only game from a PFF individual game standpoint that he was under 60. And really, the only game he was under 65. He had a 54 grade in this one.
That's crazy, actually.
So there's a lot of, it was his third lowest passer rating. So there's a lot of that game in Carolina, which is where we're going to be, was his worst game of the season, or one of his worst games of the season.
I mean, look, let's start with that. The one thing that has to go Carolina's way for them to win this game would be one of the things that went their way the last time, which is turnovers. Like, they basically, I mean, it's a 10.5 point line again. I think it's fairly clear that the Rams are probably a double-digit better football team than the Carolina Panthers. Therefore, if the Panthers want to win this game, they need the variance to bounce their way. And the two biggest ways of variance both went their way the last time, which is turnovers and fourth down plays, which are effectively, turnovers if you don't get them. So most of their the fourth down luck that went their way in that game was actually executing on fourth down as opposed to stopping on fourth down, getting a turnover on downs, but the same concept, right? So starting with that, Stafford has actually had quite a bunch of turnover-worthy plays in the last 6 weeks or whatever of the season, starting really with that Carolina game. They need that again. They need him to put the ball in harm's way multiple times, and they need to get hold of the football when he does that.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. Look, high level, I've said this before, and look, it's the playoffs. Any week we could all look stupid. You can lose it any week. I still feel like the Rams. I have not come off my mid-season priors, my mid-season takes that the Rams are one of, if not the best all-around team in the NFL. The team that I trust the most when it comes to their ability to throw the ball, run the ball, rush the passer, stop the run. When we talk about balance, either on offense or balance for teams, I think it's the ability to win multiple ways, win different ways. And what got lost in this previous matchup, and it's not the only data point that we need to focus on, but what got lost in this previous matchup, it was a bit of a shootout. It was back and forth. Like, the Rams moved the ball easily against Carolina.
Yeah.
It was actually very similar to the Seattle Thursday night game that they lost, where you go back and you're like, Seattle game, they had 581 yards and then found a way to lose because of some high leverage plays. The Rams were moving the ball. So I expect them to be able to move the ball against Carolina again. So I trust the Rams, both sides of the ball.
Remember early in the season, Carolina have been confusing and difficult to diagnose all the way through the year. But early on, we were making the point that their defense has improved dramatically from certainly last year. And actually it was kind of like it was the best thing on this team, right? It had become a pretty reasonable unit. If anything, they've gotten worse over the course of the season. Somehow they've backed into the playoffs and they're hosting a game.
They're bottom 10 in EPA per play on offense and defense.
Yeah, now they're 23rd in EPA per play on defense. They're 24th against the run. Like, the things that this team was supposed to be actually reasonably good at early in the season, if anything, they've gotten worse at it. And you're like, it almost feels like there's less chance of them beating the Rams than the last time around.
I got another one for you from the 33rd team research team. Because early in the year, we were like, okay, here's the part that makes sense for Carolina. They are running the ball really well. They were running the ball all over. Remember the Dallas game? Rico Dowdle was having some huge games. They were right, exactly. We need that sound clip every time we mention his name.
One of the things we need to do on this show at some point is get one of those Stream Deck machines, with the buttons.
Yeah, we need that.
And put in hotkeys for sounds like that that we can hit ourselves.
Yeah.
So you get one, I get one. We get our own little soundboard.
Yeah.
So we can just hit Dowdle and your man, what is his name? Eric Collins, is that his name? Just goes, Dowdle. It'd be great.
Can we get
It's a long-term project. Somebody make a note.
How do we get a soundboard in here? So Carolina, you would think this team that has made this playoff push, and the playoff push, by the way, since week 11, they're 3-5. 3-4. They have not run the ball effectively per 33rd team, our research team. 4.5 yards per carry the first 10 weeks, 3.2 yards per carry since week 11. Success rate's gone from 9th to 30th during that time. So some of what they were able to get away with early in the year, shortening games and running the ball effectively and 4-minute drill against Green Bay, those things haven't necessarily been there. Now they have offset them with Bryce Young has had some, since week 11, has had some really good games. There has not been a bigger roller coaster ride than Bryce Young's performances this year, throw for throw, or even a couple games just from a production standpoint. They're going to need him to make some plays. He's got to get the ball to Tetero McMillan down the field, Jalen Coker. We saw it. Remember we talked about it coming out of the Bucs game. Is there a level of aggressiveness that he needs to have as the 10.5-point underdog here, where he's just like, let's YOLO this thing. If you're the Panthers, you should go in. If Eric's over there and he's got someone's ear, it's got to be, hey, we need to either we're going to try to win this one 31-28 again through aggressiveness. It might fail.
The only
way, we might lose 48-9.
That's the thing,
right? But you have to go for it here.
The only way they can win this game is to be is to get variance has to bounce their way, and there's no way of just being lucky, right? But that's kind of what needs to happen in this game. They need to lean into every high-end area of variance and hope that they get the high end of those breaking their way. And yeah, one of two things, therefore, is going to happen. Either they keep a game implausibly close against a better football team and somehow sneak a win, or they get annihilated because all of the variance stuff bounces against them and the Rams just murder them. I mean, I don't know. Does it matter if you get stomped by 50 points versus you lose a game by 10.5 that they say is going to happen? The only way you can win this game is to try and make it crazy, right? And with Bryce Young, I mean, we've been talking. It feels like he has these plays in him. He just doesn't want to play that way. So maybe the way of doing this is to just go out there and say, look, you're probably going to lose. Go nuts. Just play start the game like it's 4th and 8, right? Late in the game and you need this play. Just start going nuts and see what happens.
It sounds like it's saying the opposite. Maybe it is, but I feel like there's two ways that they can increase the variance in this game. You're either going to be super aggressive, or you're going to go back to that style that worked a lot first half of the season where you're completely shortening the game, where you try to say, we're going to run the ball, and that perfect mix is like 4 yards here, 5 yards there, 3rd and 3, you pick it up, and just long sustained drives, because they've had many games. Remember, an average NFL game is like 11 or 12 drives. The Panthers have had many games where they only have 8 or 9 drives on both sides of the ball. So when you're a heavy underdog, if you have a game like that where there's only 8 or 9 drives, you're immediately not giving the favorite more chances to just pull away.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like increased variance or also decreased variance, but there's one of these extremes I think they need to live in,
right?
Which is we either need these big plays and we need some turnovers, or we need to and again, the shortening the game thing is one of those things I always call more of a hope than a strategy, because you have to execute.
Well,
you can't just dial up 13 play drives. You need to execute it.
And also, the Rams are better at that than you are. Like, the Rams are one of the best run defenses in the NFL. Like, your only hope is to be better at them than the thing they're good at, which is unlikely. So I feel like you're better off leaning into blind-ass luck and just hoping stuff bounces your way. This is one where it's weird because I don't see a game plan that Carolina can craft that actually makes them the better football team. Like, I think they have to effectively get lucky. Now, that doesn't mean you just sit back and hope luck back. Like, you can try and manufacture luck by, leaning into the variance and leaning into executing in these things and, actually forcing some luck to bounce your way. But I don't see a world like you're saying, the other extreme, where you're just like, well, we can shorten the game. Let's try and run long, sustained drives against one of the best run defenses in the NFL. It's like, I don't see that that's going to work. And if you are successfully executing that, and you don't get one of these drives, like 3 and out, because you didn't run well on first down or whatever, well, then now you're in a hole immediately.
Yeah.
So I think that they have to just go, look, the only way to win this game is the way it went the last time, which is we're going to get super aggressive. We're going to try and create chaos. We're going to hope the chaos bounces more our way than their way, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But that's the only way.
And especially on 4th down, you might see a little bit more aggressiveness there from Carolina potentially. The other part
who have already been one of the most aggressive 4th down teams in the NFL, like they're 3rd or whatever in terms of rate of going for it on 4th down, albeit with some of that forced.
So the other part that I just wanted to highlight that, again, I know a lot of our listeners hear me say a lot of the same things, but for whatever the reason, if you're a Panthers fan, you can look back at the last 2 years and think about some of the big games that they've played and that they've almost won or won outright. The Chiefs and the Eagles last year, down to the last possession. This year, the Rams, when the Rams were sitting atop everybody's power rankings. For a team that won only a handful of games and picked 8th coming out of last year, and a team that's 8-9 as the division-winning NFC South champions here, the Panthers have beaten good teams. For whatever reason, under Dave Canales, with Bryce Young, they have found a way to not even win these big games, but be there, right? Last year's team, the defense was awful. Bryce was benched. They were trying to find their way, and they were a drop away from beating the Super Bowl champion Eagles, and it took a little Mahomes magic to beat them with a late field goal, and then this year the Rams game. So they've got that going for them. In these big games, they have found a way to at least make it competitive or in the Rams' case, pull the upset.
Another thing going for them is the Rams' defense in the last sort of few weeks has allowed some pretty big plays fairly regularly. It's still a very good defense, but it has been vulnerable to explosive plays. I think you have been able to attack this defense over the top in the last few weeks. So again, if you're looking for a game plan for Carolina and we're sort of trying to funnel them or force them towards a drop back YOLO, let's hope it breaks our way type of game. I mean, number one, that's how they beat them the first time, right? Those 4th and 8 long shots over the top. It wasn't just 4th and 8 completion, on a dig or something. Like, they went over the top on those plays and hit them. That's where the Rams are vulnerable. If you're trying to find a spot on this defense where they are vulnerable, it's funneling you towards that game plan naturally anyway. So the fact that the recent history of this defense suggests that's a weakness is also good for that game plan.
So a couple other data points I found interesting, either from 33rd Team or just whatever I found. Carolina's been really good at limiting play action success. So on play action, they're only allowing 4.6 yards per play. That's second in the NFL. Similar when they play split safeties. So there's this conservative, we talk about, keeping the top on the defense. They've done a nice job limiting explosives. So they have a chance, I think, to just have this bend but don't break defensive game plan where it's like, all right, just make that. So it's almost like, can you sustain drives? Maybe. Can you make the Rams go 15 plays? Can you actually shorten the game by bend but don't break? That's another potential strategy for Carolina that has worked well for them. Working against them, though, is the Rams and their 13 personnel. Remember, that's 1 running back and 3 tight ends. If you're an X's and O's, if you enjoy the X's and O's, watch this. Watch how they use Higbee and Parkinson and Terrence Ferguson and move those guys around. And it's not just 3 tight ends in line. They'll come up and go empty with those tight ends and create these mismatches. But the Panthers are the worst team in the league EPA-wise when they're targeted against inline tight ends. So the Rams have an opportunity. I think the middle of the field all season, there's been opportunities against the Panthers, linebackers, safeties, in the middle of the field. So I think there's, a matchup to be watched there with the Rams and the Panthers.
Yeah.
But the Rams, again, let me go back to the Rams real quick because we talked about this from a Panthers perspective. The Rams are the 5 seed. I still might rank them as the best all-around team in the NFC as far as what they could do through the pass game with Matthew Stafford. By the way, Devontae Adams likely back here as well. So with Puka Nakua's ability to take over a game, with Devontae Adams back, who's been an absolute red zone cheat code. When you go back and look at Stafford having 46 touchdowns, the number of times where it's a slant, a fade, whatever it is to Devontae Adams in the tight red zone, huge factor. They can rush the passer with Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, with Byron Young's had a great year.
Yep.
Kobe Turner's had a great year. So they could rush the passer, they could stop the run, they could run the ball, right? They're just going to run duo right at you and stay on schedule. They have all the ingredients. They have all the pieces to go on a run. The thing that's killed the Rams is turnovers and special teams this season. Mm-hmm. Turnovers and special teams. So that's the key. If you're a Rams fan, that's the thing you're keeping an eye on.
Special teams, of course, they made the change at special teams coordinator relatively late in the season. It's been better since that point. So I guess that's something that could swing back against them at any random time unless it's genuinely been fixed with the flip of a switch and the firing of a guy. Again, another way that it could go Carolina's way if they get a special teams big play out of somewhere in either direction, right? Either they make one themselves or they stop the Rams some way capacity on special teams. That going against them. Devontae Adams being back is huge for the Rams, I think. And I think it's a hamstring, and that's always twitchy. We'll get to those later with Trent Williams in San Francisco. But, they had him running full-speed routes before the last game they played. He looks pretty well ready to go at this point. It's not one where I'm necessarily expecting it to... he's playing, but is he right on the limit? What happens the first time he sprints? I feel like he's properly back, and that's not great for Carolina.
I didn't even realize. I don't always look at normal stats, receptions, yards. I didn't realize Puka was over 1,700 yards this year. Wow. I knew he was incredible. I just watch the games and write our notes, and we talk about it, and I know what happened game to game, and I don't always go back and look that he had 129 catches in 17 100 yards.
Remember when there was a stretch of several years from like 15, 16, 17, etc., when Julio Jones had made like yards per route run his own stat, right?
Yeah.
Like Steve Smith always had that record for that crazy 08 season, but then Julio Jones for like a series of years was the only guy in and around 3 yards per route run. And it was like 3.1 for multiple straight years. Puka Nacua now, for a couple of years, has basically added half a yard to that. He's up at like 3.5 over a multiple year period.
3.71 this year.
Yeah,
Monster
and it was 3.5 or whatever last year. Like he's basically added half a yard per route to Julio Jones' stretch where he was the league leader for a series of years not that long ago. Like the acceleration, the amplification of that specific stat in terms of wide receiver production has kind of gone crazy. I mean, JSN is right there with him as well this year. But Puka Nacua in particular, like the production that he is having is kind of nuts when you consider like Julio Jones was the gold standard for a long, long time. And now he's adding, like he's pushing that a lot further.
All right, man. Lots to watch in this game, even for a 10.5 point spread. It's Saturday, 4:30. Rams at the Panthers, 10.5. Where are you going to go with this one?
I think that Carolina will keep it closer than 10.5. I don't really see a way they win the game, but I think that they will keep it within like double digits.
I mean, you're smart enough to know you don't. There's ways. You don't see I mean, you're not predicting.
No, I know, but like I don't. It'll take something like last time for them to win the game. I don't really see a way they win the game conventionally.
All right, I get the Rams winning. Carolina covering the 10.5. Harry's got Carolina covering the 10.5. I'll also say I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams come out angry and just play a clean, they're the better team type of game.
I think there's much more chance that we get the game that should have happened the last time, like the Rams just murder them as the better football team, than somehow Carolina does it again.
And then looking ahead, I mean, it's really tough to do with a 4-5 seed because you can't really predict. But if there are no upsets, we'd be seeing in the Rams win. The winner of this would go to Seattle.
Okay.
But it's too many moving parts there. The only thing you can really say that for is if the 7 seed upsets this team, we know where they're going, which is the Saturday night game, 8 o'clock, Packers at the Bears. Packers favored by 1.5 here from FanDuel on the road in Chicago. Over-unders 45.5. The rubber match of Packers-Bears. Both games have come down to the wire. Packers with a 7-point win, and then the Bears with a walk-off 6-point win. Only a 6-point win against the Packers just a couple weeks ago on a Saturday night. Caleb Williams to DJ Moore with the walk-off. So what's going to happen here in the third matchup?
Well, based off those two games, I'm going to assume that it comes down to the final play of the game again.
Clearly.
Yeah.
It's the only possible explanation. Mm-hmm. Both games were kind of low scoring. The first matchup, the Packers created some explosives, but they weren't really moving the ball effectively until they hit a couple explosives, some big third downs. And then even in this one, like the Bears hadn't scored a touchdown until the fourth quarter and then get hot late. So for two teams, like I don't love the Bears defense, as far as yards given up. They've been very turnover dependent. I think the Packers defense has taken a bit of a hit without Micah Parsons, but it's been more of a defensive struggle type of matchup both times so far.
It's also both games kind of followed the same pattern, right? In that Green Bay felt like the better team, got out to a lead, and then Chicago pulled it back in quick order, which is, I mean, this is the thing. Not only do they score, are they capable of scoring quickly, the Bears, but they're also able to, like, they never seem to get out to being too far back. So, like, that Lions game was a good example where it felt like they were just getting annihilated in that game, giving up tons, and yet it only ever got to 16 points, which is only ever 2 drives away.
Yeah.
And then Caleb Williams is not uniquely qualified, but unusually well adapted to make those plays, because Caleb Williams, Josh Allen, these guys that have that escapability, that big playability in all areas, all ways, like those guys are really hard to stop getting 2 yards when you need it. So those guys are capable of bringing you back on those, 2 drives that need 8 points each. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with this idea that Green Bay feel like the better of the 2 teams and yet have the worst record and every time the Bears come back.
Yeah, I mean, and it's 2 teams. Look, I think from a Bears perspective, I think there should be tons of optimism with the entire organization. I think some of Caleb Williams' development. I mean, think about last year at this time we were talking about his sack rate and how the offensive line was bad, but he's also making it worse, and he holds the ball. And this year, what an unbelievable job he's done of avoiding those negative plays. And then you see the pass catchers without Rome Odunze over the last couple weeks. You see Luther Burden's emergence. You see Colston Loveland, what he's done the second half of the season. But he's been unbelievable, right? It's so funny watching rookies, man. Like, rookies it's not either or, but there are a lot of rookies who hit the ground running, and there's a lot of rookies who just things click at midseason. Week 8, week 9, week 10. Remember, actually, Christian Watson was the guy. What did he have? 9 touchdowns in the second half or something like that, his rookie season. And Loveland's had that type of impact where he made a few plays early on, but before you know it, it's like, all right, it's 3rd and long. Like, they're looking for Colston Loveland. They're getting him isolated. So I love the way the Bears' trajectory is going, but they're the team that has a lot of those underlying metrics where it's like, they're giving up a lot of yards, and can they really rely on Nashawn Wright forcing fumbles and great interceptions? Can they really rely on some overthrows to Kevin Byard all season? Can they really rely on all of those turnovers in a pass rush that has not been great, right? It has not been the type of pass rush where you're like, man, you feel the walls caving in on the quarterback. It's been the opposite, right? A couple plays here and there. You get Austin Booker, you get Montez Sweat, you get Gervon Dexter pushing the pocket. It's just not as consistent. So I think they're a fine team. They're a good team that's found a way to win in the end. And I think it comes down to, again, maybe it's Caleb Williams with the ball in the fourth quarter once again, and, make some magic or don't. See what happens.
That's kind of what I think. I feel like Green Bay they're underlying a better team, but Caleb Williams is capable of making magic happen. And that's this game is the 2 times it's come down to that. Caleb Williams trying to make magic happen by himself, and one time he got it done, one time he didn't. And that's really how it works. It's like the game gets just far enough out of reach that they need him to just be the miracle worker and make crazy stuff happen, and he's 50-50 on that in this game so far this season. The other thing, though, you've got working here is that Green Bay, remember, how much does going into the playoffs with momentum or anything like that matter? I mean, they volunteered into bailing on the last game, right? So they're now working on a 4-game losing streak, albeit one of them effectively, it's like fake because they played all the backups. But you again, I constantly amazed by the Matt LaFleur discourse out there, but there are people out there tweeting like, what kind of coach survives a 5-game losing skid at the end of the season? You're like, yeah, but one of the games was like they threw the game by playing all the backups and resting everybody.
Right.
So you have that. Like, does last week or the fact that they've now lost 4 straight mean anything? Or do they just roll out there with the actual starters and it's a completely different football team? One, in fact, that ranks, 2nd in EPA per play throughout the season, 3rd in success rate, like these types of things. Which one of those things is more important?
Yeah, I'm of the mind that the Packers are going to feel a little underrated, to fans, like going into this game. I know they're favored spread-wise. But yeah, they've got the 4 straight losses. What are those losses? They had a lead against Denver, and then blew it in the second half, lose 34-26. Then you've got the Bears game, the walk-off loss where they were up 16-6 well into the fourth quarter. Jordan Love gets hurt late. That's the last time Jordan Love played. Then they had Malik Willis against the Ravens. They got waxed by the Ravens. That would be the other game that is a concern, right? There's a couple games this year where the run offense or run defense, it was so extreme that come to mind. The Bears running all over the Eagles on Black Friday, and then the Ravens running all over the Packers. So these 2 teams have been on both sides. Those are 2 of the games that come to mind where you just have that old school, high school, like just keep running the ball, wear them down, and it works at the NFL level. The Bears did it to the Eagles, and the Packers had it done to them by the Ravens, where they just could not stop 40 carries of Derrick Henry. But that was the Week 17 game. Then they rested everybody. But I think Jordan Love coming back, being healthy, Josh Jacobs has been banged up the whole second half of the season. He's had a quote this week saying he feels better than ever, and they need some semblance of staying on schedule from a running back perspective. I think Green Bay relies. We talk a lot about Carolina's variance. Green Bay relies a lot on it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. Jordan Love, little fadeaway, ripping deep outs, and getting the ball down the field. I don't think they can live by that, but they do have those opportunities against this Bears defense.
They do, yeah. I mean, they're going to have opportunities against the Bears defense. The Bears, they're not able to get a ton of pressure. You probably don't want to blitz Jordan Love because of that fadeaway ability that he's got and the capacity he's got to find a shot over the top. They've got weapons to make that happen. I think the Bears defense is in kind of a tough spot against this Green Bay offense. And then the question becomes the other side of the ball, where Green Bay's defense has shown serious vulnerabilities.
Let me just give you some Bears pass defense stats really quick, and then we'll talk Bears offense against the Packers defense. So the Bears defense, per 33rd team's crack research team, on 10-plus yard throws, most yards allowed in the league, or second most yards allowed in the league. Second highest yards per attempt allowed, 12.4. 56% completion percentage, second worst in the league. 15 touchdowns allowed, 27th in the league. However, first in interception.
Yeah.
Interceptions. Nothing sums up the Bears like that. They've given up second most yards, second highest yards per attempt, second highest completion percentage, most interceptions, tied for the second most of the last decade behind just last year's Vikings team. And Jordan Love is top 10 in yards per attempt, completion percentage, with really high EPA per play on 10-plus yard throws. Particularly those outbreakers, too, where Green Bay likes to, again, hit those deep outs where Chicago is not great at defending them. You get your cornerbacks playing off, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. I think they'll have some opportunities there.
Yeah. Remember also one of these games was the Bears could not cover Christian Watson in the slot. Like they were able to manufacture these matchup advantages for him and really go nuts with him. They're banged up there as well on the back end, particularly with that slot spot. So Chicago's game plan for stopping Christian Watson, I think, will be a big part of this.
Packers defense, as you mentioned, I mean, that Broncos, that Week 15, just for the Chiefs, when Mahomes got hurt, even though their season was pretty much over, Micah Parsons gets hurt, like within the same hour or the same day, whatever it was. Parsons made such a huge impact. Devontae Wyatt early in the season got hurt. He made a big impact. The Packers have not had the horses to rush the passer, so that was the week before the Bears game, where they were playing fine, but run defense has not been great since Parsons went down, ironically, because everybody, he's not a great run defender.
Right.
Run defense has not been great since he went down. Don't have the effectiveness of the pass rush. Remember early in the season, just the fear of Micah Parsons had QBs getting rid of the ball very, very quickly. Packers corners could jump on it. It's another huge factor where that's to the Bears' advantage with their ability to run, throw the ball, and their emerging playmakers.
Yeah, I mean, they're so much more vulnerable on defense without Micah Parsons there. And that's the reality of this, and that's the unfortunate situation Green Bay are in, where this season's in danger of looking just like the previous seasons, where it's like, yeah, you're good, you're not great. You get to the playoffs, you run in, and you're not good enough. And it's like, yeah, but the one guy that was supposed to make the difference there is not there anymore. And he was making the difference earlier in the season. And now he's hurt. And so you are basically back where you started. So they're in this tough spot where the guys that were already there now need to take a step forward and show that they can make a difference because the guy that was supposed to be the difference maker is hurt.
Micah Parsons, just PFF's pressure numbers here. Parsons has 25 more pressures than anyone else on the team. Hasn't played since Week 14. Rashawn Gary's second with 54. No one else has more than 25.
Yeah.
So just to sum it up, if Green Bay is going to win this game, I think they're going to need, Lucas Van Ness was making some plays. He only played 9 games this year, but he made some plays, down the stretch a little bit. They need something from Van Ness. They need something from Rashawn Gary for the first time in weeks. They need something up front. The run defense, though, I think is my bigger concern. The fact that the Bears have it in them, love the way DeAndre Swift is run, Kyle Monangai, the fact that they could have this power and speed combo with the two backs, I think they have a chance to run the ball effectively against the Packers.
Yeah, and remember the offseason for Chicago where they went so hard at that offensive line. It was like Ben Johnson had no interest in learning whether his offense still worked or not without a really good offensive line. So they got Joe Thuney. They brought in Jonah Jackson. They brought in Drew Dahlman. All those guys have been successful upgrades. I mean, even Jonah Jackson, who was very much way back when he looked promising, and then his career kind of derailed with injuries and not playing as well. Like, Jonah Jackson's been pretty good this year. So basically everything they did on that offensive line has worked. Caleb Williams has therefore had one of the most dramatic transformations of all time in terms of like his relationship with pressure. Last year he had his pressure to sack rate was like 29% or something, and now it's like 10%. I mean, I can't remember a guy who's gone from one end of the spectrum to the other like that so extremely. That's generally one of those data points that's supposed to be fairly sticky, 1 year to the next, like long term. It's like if that's a guy's problem in college, it doesn't tend to go away. Caleb Williams has gone from a weakness to a strength in that area. The offensive line has gone from being pretty bad to being really good. It's good in both run blocking and pass blocking. I mean, that is an area where they have an advantage over this Green Bay defensive front as long as they don't have Micah Parsons, and obviously they don't.
The next step for Caleb Williams is just hitting more throws. I mean, his overall completion percentage is 58%, which is extremely low.
It's just not having the dud ones that don't make any sense. The ones where it's like he's made the thing happen and the throw's there and it just drops to the feet of the guy he's throwing it to. Like that, with the throws he can make, those throws can't happen.
And then his adjusted completion percentage is 70. It's right next to J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix Jr. I mean, it's just you want that to bump up. Yeah. And that's where I think the Bears, whether it's next year or on this run here, that's where the Bears offense can be special.
That's where the growth opportunity is. Like if you improve that with Caleb Williams, they go from like that's an extra percentage of dominance they could have just by him improving those, which are again, those are throws he can make. He just isn't regularly now. Like if he starts clicking that, and suddenly you've got this laser pinpoint accurate guy on all those plays. Again, kind of like the way Jordan Love did back, a couple of years ago, where suddenly a switch flipped and he went from being scattershot a little bit all over the place to every one of these passes is perfect.
Love's a great example.
Like if Caleb Williams does that, the Bears go from like, I don't want to say a fraudulent seed where they are now, but like nobody really, I mean, even Vegas, nobody really believes in the Bears right now.
I could describe them similar to what I said the Jags.
But if that switch flips, the Bears immediately go from, do we really believe in this, to like, that's for real.
The Bears are the number 2 seed with meat on the bone, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's still meat on the bone to take advantage of.
Like that change, if he had a Jordan Love type jump that just happened randomly out of nowhere, that moves the line in this game. I mean, that would move it a couple of points in their favor just by him suddenly having that epiphany.
Love that they're playing a playoff game. Love this. Packers-Bears, the rivalry, it's fantastic. The Packers by 1.5, Sam. Where are you going to go?
I'm going to go with Green Bay. I think that underlying fundamentally they've been the better football team in these two games. And now maybe it's crazy to not believe that, Caleb Williams will still make it happen anyway. But I'm going to buy into the idea that the better football team wins the game. Right, crazy that is.
I'm going to take the Packers as well. I don't love it. I love the matchup, though. Can't wait for it. Saturday night. We got one more thing to discuss in this game. But first, you know how fast NFL game days move. One big play and everything changes. That's why live betting on FanDuel is a game changer. With FanDuel, you could bet in real time while the game unfolds. If the score just flipped, you could just jump on a new spread or a live money line. If the wide receiver's heating up, you could bet the next touchdown score or total yards. Think that drive's going to stall in the red zone, we could take a live field goal prop or fade the total. Live player props, team totals, drive results, updated spreads, next play markets. It's all there. It's fast, it's fun, and with FanDuel, your live bets move quickly or as quickly as the game does. So whether you're riding momentum or fading the hype, FanDuel puts you right in the middle of every moment. Visit FanDuel.com/33rd to download the app and bet the NFL live all season long. Must be 21 plus in present in select states. For candidates in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino or 18 plus in present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Paid endorsement. Today we are looking at that Packers-Bears game, and the one name that I wanted to mention, but I saved it for this, Luther Burden III. His over-under is just 41.5 receiving yards. I say just because I'm taking the over here, Sam. I think the Bears, if they're going to win this game, it's the rookies. It's Burden. It's Colston Loveland. If the Packers are going to win, it's Christian Watson, maybe Josh Jacobs. Like you're going to lean on your stars. Burden is the emerging star for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, and they went away from him a little bit last week, and I think I don't think that was a good thing for them. Like his production this year in a sort of per route basis has been really, really good, and it's like the second half of the season they kind of realized that. I mean, we've been calling for it all season long. Like, hey, good things happen generally when you give Luther Burden the ball. How about doing that some more? And they have in the second half of the year. His yards per route run figure has been up with like one of the best rookies ever. I think he dropped just below the best in PFF's era with that final week against Detroit. But I think they know that they should get him the ball now. And maybe the game script, maybe just the plays went away from them last week, but I would imagine they want to get him back involved.
Yeah, I'm with you. So 41.5 is the over-under for Luther Burden. You're going to take the over?
Yeah.
Okay. I will also take the over. FanDuel.com/33rd. Can't wait to watch Saturday night NFC North action in the cold. Possible snow. The snow's more, I think, on Sunday, unfortunately, but it'll be cold. All right, we're on to Sunday. The 1 o'clock game, Buffalo Bills at the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Bills are favored by 1.5 here in Jacksonville. Over-under is 51.5 for this one. The number 6 seeded Bills at the number 3 Jags.
Yeah, and this is the narrative bowl for Josh Allen, you know? If not now, then when? Because Mahomes isn't there, Lamar Jackson isn't there, so therefore Josh Allen has to win a Super Bowl this year, according to the people.
I think this is the game of the week. I would say in a year where, I mean, there's kernels of truth there, where it's like, I think the Chiefs have been such a thorn in the side of the Bills. I'm not saying it's easier this year, but there's this kernel of truth where if the Bills had the 1 or the 2 seed, you would say, all right, they've got some control here. They've got some control this year versus other years. And all I'm saying is, it is a tough first matchup for the Bills. If they're going to do this, because the narrative thing is at least worth discussing, right? Because at the end of the day, we're going to be talking QBs and their legacy and this and that and the fallout. Like if the fallout, if the Bills lose, is going to be could be big.
If the Bills lose, I think that Sean McDermott will have a task on his hands to hold on to his job. Like I generally credit them for not knee-jerk reacting to these defeats sequentially in the last few years, and I think they've actually had the right approach, which is to say, look, nothing is fundamentally broken with what is happening here. We have just unfortunately lost, several straight times against these other football teams, whether or not they're better. Like, see, this is the thing, right? Losing a game does not necessarily mean you're the worst team overall. It doesn't even mean you were the worst team in that game. It just means things went against you, right? And it might even be one play went against you. But look at, we discussed this already with the Rams, the Panthers, right? The Rams lost to the Panthers. There's nobody out there that thinks the Rams are a worse team than the Carolina Panthers right now, right? So just because you've lost does not mean you're the worst team. Just because you lose 2, 3, 4 times in a row does not necessarily mean you're a worse team than these other teams who go on to win the Super Bowl. So I generally credit them for not doing anything crazy, anything radical, and completely overhauling things. But that gets harder to do every year that happens. And it also gets, at some point, you probably do need to conclude, you know what? Maybe we do need to change something, even though I fundamentally believe that you can stack up quite a number of these things before, you determine that something is radically, again, it's like a coin flip, right? If 2 teams are relatively evenly matched, you can flip a coin quite a lot of times and have it come up, heads in a row without it meaning that your coin is just broken, right? That's just the way of the world. But if they lose this game, because of the way this narrative is swirling. No Mahomes, no Lamar Jackson, no Joe Burrow. And you lose Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, it's going to be really hard to not fire people.
But part of the whole narrative piece too, though, I think if people are honest with themselves, they're not looking back being like, well, Josh Allen he's played horribly in the playoffs. We know that that's not necessarily true. It's when they lose, like against Kansas City 2 years ago in the divisional round, you get a little bit of pressure. He's got an open receiver for the game-winning or go-ahead touchdown late and misses him. It's last year. There's the QB sneak where it's a little controversial, right? Did he get it? Did he not get it? QB sneak in their own territory. He doesn't get it. Then there's the 4th and long where Spags just pulls out this blitz from hell that the Bills can't pick up and they have no answers. And Allen still finds a way to get the ball up to Dalton Kincaid, who's got to adjust to it, and it goes off his hands. It's because he's been good. Like, the offense has been good.
Yeah.
And then, but Mahomes and the Chiefs always made one extra play. Like, Mahomes always made the play late, and Allen didn't make the play late, right? So the narrative is overblown. But the kernel of truth in there is that you don't have the other superhuman quarterback opposite you to go blow for blow, that the guy that's always made one more play than you. Now, that's not to say that Trevor Lawrence can't do it, or Justin Herbert can't do it, or Drake May can't do it. But I'm just saying you don't have the guy that has consistently done it year in, year out against you. That's what's different here.
No, the thing that I would say is different here is you have no reason to be psychologically second best in this game, right? Like, you could argue that they have reasons to be psychologically inferior when they go up against Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs because they've had so many of those damaging games, 13 seconds, the other game. Like, there are reasons to have psychological scars going up against Kansas City in the playoffs in January, right? There's no reason to have those psychological scars going up against Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, right? So,
well, back in '96.
Yeah. That's the only thing that's in their favor in this game, I think, in terms of the narrative stuff. Like, that part, I think, is true. But the problem is, I think everyone is looking at this and being like, well, no, Mahomes, blah, blah, blah. Therefore, the Bills are the team. But I mean, I would argue right now the Jags are playing better football than the Bills. The Bills are
absolutely.
They're the one legacy team that everyone looks at and says, well, that's the team that we're supposed to believe in, right? Buffalo, Josh Allen, playoffs, sure. Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, playoffs, no. Like, there's basically Buffalo and the Rams are the two teams in this wide open playoff sphere where you would look at it and say, those are like the teams that we expected to be there with the quarterback that we expect to be there and with some kind of proven track record of being there and doing good things, therefore they should win.
Right.
But it's like, but right now, in almost every area, I would say Jacksonville's playing better. And yet somehow the Bills are 1.5-point favorites on the road.
And a lot of this game is going to come down to the run game. And so the Bills are fascinating because they have games where James Cook has to make a lot of plays. Again, remember last year, I'm always looking for those legacy plays. Remember what James Cook did in the AFC Championship last year? 4th and 1, incredible second effort. It would have been one of the most legendary plays in Bills history if they had pulled that off, gone to the Super Bowl, maybe won the Super Bowl. James Cook, 4th and 1. I mean, they're still at their best. Not when Josh Allen is playing Superman. It's like that's a break glass in case of emergency. They're still at their best when they're running Cook and they're spreading the ball around, and they're going to have to because they don't have the outside receivers. The Jags are good against outside receivers. So that's the case. But it's strength on strength here. The Jags, depending on, they're number 1 in yards allowed on the ground. They're top 10 in EPA per play, right? Yards allowed is skewed a little bit by are you leading? Do teams actually run?
Third, I think, in EPA per play.
Is it third?
Yeah.
Did I put that in the notes? I have them 9th best. One of the things I saw.
Well, according to NFL Pro, whatever the hell that is.
Everybody's got different EPAs. Jags are between 3rd and 9th best in EPA per play. So the Jags have a good run defense. The Bills.
Oh, you're talking run defense.
Run defense. Yeah, I'm just talking run defense.
Overall, they're 3rd.
Defense. Yeah. The Jags have a good defense, man.
Yeah.
And they force turnovers. And so let me oversimplify this thing, too. The turnovers, man. We have both teams. Like, the turnover narrative for both teams. The Jags were forcing 3 per game early in the year. And I said, you can't keep that up, right? And they couldn't, but they were still a very good defense overall. And then the Bills, halfway through the season, were like, what's wrong with the Bills? They keep fumbling, and they couldn't make the comeback against Miami because
30-something games of like winning the turnover battle and then stopped doing that.
And that stopped, and it didn't. It wasn't just like they lost by 1; they lost by 3. I mean, when we wake up Monday morning, got to go back and check. When we wake up Monday morning, if we're like, man, Allen had a couple bad picks, and there was a fumble, and Cook fumbled twice against the Bengals, and he had a couple fumbles against the Steelers, and a couple games he just put the ball on the turf. If the Jags can force the turnovers, Bills are going to have some problems.
Yeah. I mean, look, turnovers are hugely important to any football game, but I think it's worth bringing up in this one because these teams have been so dependent on them in differing ways. Yeah. Jacksonville forces them a ton. Buffalo had that run of basically 2 straight seasons plus of winning the turnover battle every single week and then stopped doing that. Yeah, like turnovers and the turnover margin is going to be important in this game.
A couple numbers the 33rd team pulled out here that I found interesting. I trust their data here. I trust their research. The Bills have faced single high 64% of the time, which is the highest since 2022 Bears. So in the narrative world, let's get beyond the Josh Allen narrative, the idea that they don't have outside receivers to worry about.
Yeah.
When you play single high, what are you doing? When you play single high, you're basically manning up your corners, right? It could be cover 3, it could be cover 1, but you're basically saying it's one-on-one on the outside. And NFL teams forever were yearning for the days of getting single high. You want single high because one-on-one, you're like, those are my best players on the outside. The fact that defenses have zero fear for the Bills.
Yeah.
Play single high. And what single high also does is you have an extra man in the box so you could stop the run. And a lot of it's because they don't have that outside receiver. And I get the Brandon Beane thing, and he's blowing up the day after the draft. We scored 30 points a game. We don't need this receiver. But some of those weaknesses have crept in.
These are the games you need them.
Yes.
That's the thing. He's right. You don't need them most of the time because you got Josh Allen, because you got Dalton Kincaid, because you're a good football team. James Cook is, running as well as anybody in the NFL this season. Yes, in most games, you do not need that outside receiver, and you can still put up one of the most efficient offenses in the NFL. When you get to January against the better football teams, now is when you might need them. And we have seen games where Buffalo has needed that outside receiver and has not been able to find him. This might be one of those games where they do need him because Jacksonville has a defense that can force you into those more difficult, low-percentage plays. And remember, we've seen games recently where Josh Allen has been running around for 8 seconds trying to find an open guy, and there isn't one. And he's got to just try and make miracles happen. And sometimes he does it because he's Josh Allen, and sometimes he doesn't. So, I mean, unless they have a game plan where they can craft something, we may end up seeing a lot of that.
That's the thing. I think they're going to have to attack the middle of the field, Buffalo. Jags have good linebackers active in the middle of the field. I mean, it's Dalton Kincaid, I think, has been unreal this year when healthy. It's got to be another middle of the field. If they're going to move on, it's all those guys stepping up. I'm just curious to see where the game flow goes. How much does Buffalo stick with the run game versus all right, Josh, go get him. It's the playoffs, and where that balance is. Because I don't think you want to do that too early. I don't think you want Allen to rely on that too early. And remember there was a game earlier this year. Once he starts to force stuff early, it's like, oh man, he's feeling the pressure to take over. You don't want that to happen too early, I think, if you're a Bills fan.
I think the Bills are kind of funny because in 2 different ways, one of them deliberate and one of them accidental, I think. They've basically been built to beat the Chiefs and nobody else. One, we already talked about, that lack of outside receiver and the concentration of everybody as a slot inside over the middle type of weapon that is uniquely designed to attack Kansas City's defense, which is good everywhere except that soft interior middle where guys like Nick Bolton are going to have to play coverage. The other area is they have been always pretty vulnerable against the run, and Kansas City doesn't really have a run game right now. So that would be another great matchup in their favor if they were playing Kansas City, because the Chiefs don't have a run game anyway, and so your soft underbelly up the middle doesn't really matter. Jacksonville does have a run game, and so that might be a bigger problem this time around. The Buffalo Bills are giving up 136 yards per game on the ground. They're giving up 5.1 yards per carry. They have the 3rd worst run defense in the NFL in terms of EPA per run. They are giving up 3.9 yards per carry after contact, which is the worst mark in the NFL. The Cincinnati Bengals with like a bunch of people out there that don't use arms and can't tackle and just fall flat in their face anytime a guy comes near them, they're third. They're less bad than the Bills. Like, they are almost giving up 4 yards per carry after contact against the run. That is staggeringly massive. Terrible.
That's where I was going to go next, as we look at the Jags offense going up against this Bills defense. The Bills defense is, look, I feel like they've had elements of this throughout the McDermott era where you're like, man, they just don't feel, they're not a physical, they've never really been a physical, big body defensive tackle type of team. And there's all these games through, like Derrick Henry ran all over him at times. Like, there's all these games through the McDermott era where you're like, they're not a great run defense, but this is probably the worst that it's been.
And part of that, again, they've always been a sort of bend, don't break defense. And part of it is you give up 4 yards per carry, 10 times.
Turnover.
10 times in the drive, you give up 40 yards, but eventually you're going to get a turnover. And then that offsets all that, right? Again, that's dried up a bit. They haven't necessarily been getting the turnovers, and so now you're just giving up a ton of plays on the ground. Again, against Jacksonville, that might be a big problem.
So, yeah, I agree. I mean, that was the other place I was going to go. So, for all we're going to – and I want to talk about Trevor Lawrence as well, but for all we're going to talk about the quarterbacks and Allen and stuff, if Cook can't get going against the Jags' run defense, and if the Jags get Etienne, Bashal Tutin, and by the way, Trevor Lawrence in the design run game, right? They have been using it, especially in the red zone, QB draws, keepers. Trevor Lawrence has been a weapon. He's got 9 rushing touchdowns. He's good on sneaks. He's good keepers, scrambles, whatever it might be. That could end up really being what determines the game is actually on the ground. And then we got Lawrence, the whole Trevor Lawrence thing.
Yeah.
This
is
the big test.
Yeah.
This is it.
It's like Trevor Lawrence has taken a huge step forward in his game, but we're still in the world of small sample sizes where we don't really know if that's real or if he's just on a run. We won't know that after this week either, regardless of what happens. But it's like if he backs that up again, then again, Trevor Lawrence was the missing piece for Jacksonville this season. Everything else improved almost immediately with Liam Cohen's arrival. The defense was better, the run game was better, everything was better. And then Trevor Lawrence, plus, if you want to argue the arrival of Jacoby Myers as well, transforming that receiving core a bit. But those two things happening more or less at the same time, that moved the needle in the pass game. And suddenly with Trevor Lawrence playing like a guy who's getting paid $55 million a year, it's a different team with a different ceiling, a different capacity, a different upside. And as long as that's the case, they are, I think, as good as any football team in the NFL right now. This is the test. If Trevor Lawrence has a game that he's had in the last 5, 6, 7 weeks, the Bills are going to have real problems stopping that.
And I think he's got the ability to do it, right? The Bills are always the pass defense that make you, stay patient, right? And an entire defense where they want you to run it. They want, invite the run, try to stop it with fewer bodies, make you patient in the pass game. And that has been, I think, the biggest turning point for Trevor Lawrence. 15 touchdowns, 1 interception through the air in the last 6 weeks.
The other number there, same time scale, last 6 weeks. He has 22 turnover-worthy plays this season, and only 2 of them have come in the last 6 weeks.
Yes. That's why, the MVP case for Lawrence is funny because, May was consistently in it the whole year. Stafford was consistently in it.
He's the MVP of the last 6 weeks.
Yes, right. Of course. He's been unbelievable. But the first, he wasn't the reason they were winning early in the year, other than late. He had a great late drive against Kansas City on Monday Night Football, but most of the time, no.
I don't think he has any MVP case.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I get it. But Lawrence has been unbelievable. And it's not just the stats, man. I'm telling you, it has looked different. There's a different comfort level.
Yeah.
I keep bringing out the idea that, he knows when to scramble and it's just dropping dots on the run, knows when to scramble, knows when to stay in the pocket, hitting the open receiver. He's not forcing it. The 2 turnover-worthy plays and the 1 interception are great examples.
All came in that one game, by the way, against the Colts. Remember when they put him in, they gave him some problems early in that game, and then either Sauce going out or Trevor Lawrence just
he was off a little bit on the red zone interception before the half.
Or him just getting back in his groove. But literally, that's the only game in the last 6 weeks where he's basically made any kind of significant mistake. Outside of that, I'm not going to say he's played perfect football, but he's played elite, almost flawless level football.
I think he's going to keep it going. I think he can keep it going here. Here's one other big storyline that I think is fascinating here. The Week 10 game, I can't get this out of my mind. Because remember, in Week 11 and Week 12, I was like, man, the Jags are really going to regret blowing this second half lead against Davis Mills and the Texans. And they have not regretted it. In fact, they haven't lost since that point. I really thought they were going to go back and be like, man, this could be the game that knocks them out of the playoffs. This could be the game that derailed their season. And I go back to Liam Cohen and, the leadership of the Jags. The fact that they bounced back from this was a disastrous comeback. It was like 29-10 or whatever, right? And they blew it and they lost. And the fact that could derail their season. And the fact that the Jags came back the next week and destroyed the Chargers and haven't lost since. And look, I know they played the Cardinals and the Titans twice and the Jets. Like, I get it. Like, there's some bad teams in there. But they beat the Colts when they still had Daniel Jones. He got hurt that game. They went into Denver. That was the biggest test. And they just, boom, passed it. That was it. Mm-hmm. Crushed Denver. So the fact that they turned their season around after something that should have potentially derailed their season, I think is huge. I think that's big for, we always talk about the coaches being the CEO and keeping guys on track, and they're more than just play callers. I think it's a huge feather in the cap of Liam Cohen, the leadership that they've turned things around since then.
It's also, by the way, it's a sneaky great game for them to keep this siege mentality, us against the world, small market team, like everyone's against us, like that crap going, because legitimately they are underdogs in this game somehow, because Buffalo is that sort of legacy team that everyone is expecting to win the Super Bowl this year because Mahomes isn't in the playoffs. Like, they can legitimately spend this week
nobody believes in us. Nobody
spouting
believes
this
in
crap
us.
Again, being like, nobody believes in us. We're supposed to lose. Like, let's go. And I mean, it happens so much that there has to be something to that, right? Like, it seems like it's ridiculous, and there's no way that should motivate grown, paid professional athletes. And yet everybody does it so regularly. There has to be something there. So the fact that Jacksonville can legitimately manufacture that narrative this week internally in the building, I think is probably nothing.
They're only talking about Josh. Nobody believes in us.
Now that may run out next week, right? If they go out there and they murder the Bills and they suddenly look like the best team in the NFL, then that probably goes away, right? But for 1 week at least, they can spend the entire week being like, we're getting disrespected because everyone's talking about Josh Allen winning a Super Bowl. And I mean, that's been what they've been doing for the last couple of months.
Trevor Lawrence has only played in 2 playoff games, the 2022 season. The first one, he had 4 picks, but that was the big comeback against the Chargers. They won 31-30, and then they go into Kansas City the next week. That was when Mahomes got hurt, and then Chad Henne had to come in, led a big touchdown drive, I believe it was, and they lose 27-20. Mahomes came back, played through the injury on the way to Super Bowl. So Trevor Lawrence, five touchdowns and 5 picks in his 2 playoff games. Mm-hmm. There's something there too, right? Does Trevor's really played within himself these last few weeks? How does he handle the pressure? Like, you have to ask these questions, right? How does he handle playoff pressure? Does he try to do too much in a big game here? So I'm looking forward to this one. I think it's the game of the week. Buffalo's favored by 1.5. Where are you going to go?
I'm going to go with Jacksonville. I think they're the better football team right now.
I am too. I'm not ready for the discourse if this happens. I think if Buffalo – I honestly I wonder if this is Buffalo's toughest game. Maybe of the entire playoffs. If they win, so they're the 6th seed. If they win,
Jacksonville could easily be the best team in the AFC right now.
Buffalo has split with New England. That would be a tough game for them.
I think it's wide open.
Like, if Buffalo went to Denver, I think they're favored by 3. I think they're favored, right?
I think the AFC is wide the hell open. And this is why, people are equating not having a clear favorite with it's easy, which it isn't. Again, this narrative of because there's no Chiefs there, Buffalo should win.
Remember,
every single playoff game in the AFC is a difficult ask because they're all they're all good, right? They're good in different ways, but they're all good. We've already seen New England is capable of beating Buffalo. The Chargers with Justin Herbert playing out of his mind are just dangerous. They've got a really good defense as well. Houston's defense is a nightmare. The only team that isn't is particularly formidable is Pittsburgh, and they've got weird Tomlin magic working, right? So, again, this idea that just because the Chiefs aren't there, this is easy, I think, A, all these teams are pretty difficult, and B, Jacksonville might be the hardest of all of them.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Just remember this moment really quick, Sam. Before the playoffs begin, remember, bookmark it, Wills. Before the playoffs begin, we're talking about all these teams. We don't have there's no favorite. There's no.
Right.
Once a team emerges, like if the Jags go on a run and go to the Super Bowl, we're going to be like, oh, of course they did. Lawrence and the defense, and of course they did. Or if the Bills go on the run, it's like, yeah, we knew this all along. Josh Allen. If the Texans go on a run, they're going to be like, they're the 2000 Ravens on defense. They always have been. We never doubted it, right? They always had it. It always, whichever team goes on the run, you look back and you forget all of the adversity, all of the question marks that they had during the season, and you just say, well, of course they were the best team. So just remember it right now where we don't know who the best team is, and we don't even have an inkling. Last year we said, or especially two years ago especially, we said the Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens are absolutely the three best teams, probably in the entire league, both and maybe the Niners. And they all made it to the Final Four, except, Buffalo lost in the divisional. Like, the right teams made it, right? We don't know who those are. But we're going to look back and feel like, of course we knew Houston, or we knew Jacksonville, or we knew Buffalo, or whoever it is. According
to PFF's power ranking stuff, like the Buffalo Bills only have a 9% chance of winning the Super Bowl. I mean, this is not, that's basically
the Jags probably not that higher, right? 10, 11?
Basically all of the teams are more or less in the same place except Pittsburgh, who are lower.
The buys. It seems the buys.
Exactly. And then the buy for Denver twice anybody else, but it's because they don't play.
Yeah, because they can't lose this weekend.
Right, exactly.
Right. Interesting. All right, so we're all taking Jacksonville, huh?
Yeah.
No love for the small market team except here on Check the Mic.
Buffalo's also a small market.
I did it again yesterday. I said the last time the Jags played the Bills, but the couple Brunell and Natron Means plays out there. Didn't get community noted this time, which is good. But somebody was trying to find out how to.
Propaganda.
All right, we're halfway through. You ready? Sunday at 4:30, San Francisco 49ers at the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles favored by 4.5. Christian McCaffrey at quarterback this year against I sure hope we don't see McCaffrey having to play.
No, that would be bad.
Nice
quarterback
bracket.
Thing didn't go well for him.
Eagles favored by 4.5 here. Another fascinating game here, Sunday at 4:30. I can't wait for this weekend. It's going to be great. A lot of great games here. What are you looking for in this one?
I mean, I guess the first question becomes, can Vic Fangio's defense do a similar number on San Francisco's offense that Seattle was able to do? I mean, the Seahawks defense is amazing, but that's the first time in a long time that anybody has even slowed down the 49ers offense, which had been on this incredible tear for such a long period of time. My kind of discussion on the 49ers was like, well, can their defense stop anybody? Are they going to have to win every game in a shootout? Can anybody get anything? Can their defense even slow down an opposing offense to give their offense some breathing room? But then you get the Seattle defense. You're like, for the first time, somebody actually slowed down that offense, and that changes everything. So if Vic Fangio can slow down this offense, it feels like the Eagles should win reasonably comfortably because the 49ers defense is still a mess. If they can't, then it gets way more interesting.
I mean, we're just talking about the Bills' defense and their run defense holes and all these different things. The Eagles their offense has been defense proof. It doesn't matter who they are. If they're playing the Giants. It doesn't matter if they're playing the Bills and their leaky run defense. The Eagles, they got a half of good football. If they don't get all their points, they have to get a lot of points in that half where the offense is, actually good.
Except the Raiders, right? It was the one.
The Raiders, they've been,
the one game where they were like fixed everything.
Yeah, and they did it in like 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah,
special.
Maybe that was how it's a time issue. They just shortened the game entirely.
That's why
they didn't have the time to crap themselves.
They didn't have time for 4 straight 3-and-outs.
Yeah,
I mean, I just can't believe how consistently inconsistent the Eagles' offense has been. So, to me, and look, I feel like we've trashed the 49ers' defense a lot on the show, and it's just because they're so depleted. They don't have
talent.
They don't have actual dudes who can make a ton of plays, but they're feisty on the back end, and they've got some young pass rushers, but they're just not a 4-man rush, cause havoc type of team right now with their personnel.
I mean, they're losing 4th-string linebackers who are starting.
No, I know. Tatum Bethune. They've got a lot of injuries. They're banged up, but it's weakness on that side. Niners defense and Eagles offense, and it's strength on strength, Niners offense and Eagles defense. So it's in that sense, I think it's going to be a fun game, and it comes down to like who overachieves, maybe on the week-on-week side. Do the Niners stop the run, find a way to force some mistakes from Jalen Hurts, get tough with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown on the outside, make things a little bit tighter window than they are normally. That's their opportunity. That's their chance.
I mean, I think Robert Saleh, it's a huge game for him as the defense coordinator of the 49ers because, look, talent-wise, they just don't have the horses to do real damage. But one of the criticisms of this Eagles offense all season long, not just that they disappear for halves at a time, it's that they're predictable and they're extremely easy to diagnose. And if you can diagnose something and you can predict it, you can attack it, even without, the horses to get it done. So Robert Saleh theoretically should have a schematic advantage on that side of the ball because this Eagles offense has been as predictable as it's been all season long. What can he do with that advantage, right? Can he dial up the right thing at the right time to stop them making plays and force them into disadvantageous third downs and force them off the field and, create struggles for this Eagles offense and actually offset the fact that he doesn't have playmakers and just do it schematically?
So that side of the ball I think is interesting. The other side, obviously, Purdy, I brought out all the stats about Purdy against Mike McDaniel defenses. We don't have a lot of recent history with Kyle Shanahan against Vic Fangio, but the extended history, Fangio's gotten the better of the Shanahan offense. So that side of the ball, man, can the Niners bounce back from just running 42 plays against the Seahawks the other night? Because they couldn't run the ball effectively, and then they just ran out of trying, couldn't create separation. Purdy got sacked 3 times out of his 11 on the entire in the regular season. You have Jalen Carter back, up front with the Eagles. When Carter's out there, this defense is legit. Cooper DeJean, what they've been able to do in the slot, it's a great matchup. It's one of the best matchups of the week as far as Niners offense and the Eagles defense. The Eagles, the one place where so the Eagles just good all around. They're allowing in where Shanahan's offense always cooks, and Brock Purdy's been outstanding, is those 10-plus yard throws, that intermediate level, 10 to 20 yards, middle of the field, out cuts. Remember, the middle of the field was an issue for Purdy early in the season. He's rectified a lot of that, though, down the stretch. Eagles are allowing the lowest completion percentage on 10-plus yard throws. They're 9th in EPA on those plays. Also, the second lowest success rate against inline tight ends. So if you talk about George Kittle potentially making an impact, the Eagles linebackers, extremely athletic, what DeJean does in the slot. So there's a lot of, advantages that it's just going to be a challenge, I think, for this Niners offense. Not that they can't do it. We're 1 week removed from talking about how great they are and unstoppable Brock Purdy and this offense have been. So I don't want to completely sour on them from one Saturday night game against the Seahawks, but the Eagles' defense is just as challenging as what they just went up against last week against Seattle.
No, absolutely. Different defense, obviously, but equally as capable. Now, that being said, that Eagles defense has had games where they haven't played at that level and have been attacked and exploited, and maybe the 49ers are capable of doing that. A huge X factor in this game is Trent Williams and whether or not he's going to play. If he plays, whether he'll last. Remember, he tweaked a hamstring on that very first pick six that Brock Purdy threw, trying to run down the guy. Tweaked the hamstring, left the game on the first play, and never came back. They're talking about him being hurt midweek as opposed to being given like a rest day, which is not a great sign.
Right.
I would assume because it's the playoffs and because this is this late in his career, he'll give it a go and try and play, but that doesn't mean he'll last very long. So does Trent Williams play? If yes, does he play well? If yes, how long does he play? These are all factors here because if he doesn't play, obviously it's a big drop-off between him and the backups.
And they survived 2 weeks ago against the Bears in that shootout.
And I think they'll survive, but Trent Williams is elite, and that's a difference maker.
Absolutely. And on the Lane Johnson on the other side, too, in and out of the lineup a ton. This year, he's suited up and supposed to be playing. And we've known Lane Johnson on-off splits, Whitwood out, has been pretty extreme for the Eagles. My narrative piece here that I just wanted to bring up again, the 2023 season. I know some people are like, oh, I didn't know that, so I'll just touch on it really quick again. We always talk about the Eagles' 2023 collapse. It started with the Niners, and it was a 4:30 game, middle of the year. The Eagles were 10-1. They had just beaten the Chiefs and the Bills. Remember that whole season? I was like, the Eagles have a stretch that is so difficult. They played the Chiefs, Bills, and 49ers in 3 straight weeks, maybe the 3 best teams in the NFL. This was 2 years ago. And they beat the Chiefs. They beat the Bills 37-34. And then the Niners come to town, go to Philadelphia, and win 42-19. It was a rematch from the previous year's NFC Championship when Purdy got hurt and McCaffrey had to come in. And the Eagles get smoked 42-19. And we came in that next day, we're like, man, maybe the Eagles, this is just a bad matchup for the Eagles defense.
Right.
It's just Kyle's got them figured out. They gave up a lot against the Bills, but maybe Shanahan just has them figured out. But that was a completely different defensive scheme. There was no Vic Fangio then, and little did we know they were going to go on this run where they just fell apart, right, and became one of the worst teams in the league down the stretch, and then lost 32-9 in the playoffs. So it was just interesting to me because at the time it was like the Niners were on their way to the Super Bowl that year, and it felt like they established themselves as the top team in the NFC by going to Philadelphia and just wrecking this team. But that was the beginning of Philadelphia's collapse. I don't think there were any similarities to that necessarily, other than at the time it was like, man, Shanahan and this offense, they figured out this Eagles defense. But this one's different with Fangio and this defense. So that's the difference between this year's Eagles team and 2023's collapse. They have a good defense. Even though the offense looks similar and just disappears at times and goes 5 straight 3-and-outs on the regular, the defense still keeps them in it. And in this Eagles team, as they've done, can win games. Would they win 10-7, 16-9? They can win those games. 13-12. They can win those types of games. So even like this could be one of those, right? Even though the Niners, I don't trust their defense, they hung tough against Seattle last week. This could be 16-13, right? Could be that defensive battle that the Eagles are equipped to win now that they weren't when they collapsed in 23.
Yeah. I mean, I think this game, it could be anything in terms of high scoring, low scoring, because I could see a world where Vic Fangio slows down this 49ers offense, but I could also see a world where Robert Saleh dials up enough to create what has been a struggling Eagles offense sometimes to create more struggles for them. But equally, I could imagine a world where the opposite of those things happen. So I think this is a really interesting game because it could be anything in terms of score, but I think either way it'll be close.
I was looking at numbers recently. I just wanted to touch on it quickly. I think Hurts, if you believe in any semblance of QB wins in specific situations, but the Jalen Hurts-led Eagles, I think have the highest winning percentage against like 10-plus win teams.
This is where he steps it up.
And look, they just beat the Bills, who had 12 wins when he didn't have a completion in the second half 2 weeks ago. Saying.
It is interesting that in this narrative world of, the Eagles are the defending Super Bowl champions. Nobody's talking about that at all. I mean, they're not as good as they were a year ago. They don't seem to be that level of team, but maybe they're capable of it. I mean, this is a team that is the defending champion, and by no means do they have an impossible pathway to repeating.
Well, this is what I mean when I spoke a little while ago. Like right now, going into the playoffs, we're like they do this well and they don't do that well. If the Eagles go on a run, you're gonna think about what could change in 4 weeks here. If the Eagles go on a run or they go back to the Super Bowl,
they go down as one of the best teams of all time.
This is the new, but this happened last year, right? Last year, all we were talking about Chiefs dynasty, three-peat. Then the Eagles win and they crush the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's like the Chiefs are frauds.
And then it's like, let's rank the best teams of the last 25 years. Oh, the Eagles are third, right? Like nobody throughout the season was like, yeah, the Eagles are sitting on the third best team of this century.
But also the Chiefs
until they beat the Chiefs, and it's like, oh yeah, they're like 07 Patriots and the 24 Eagles are the same.
But also the Chiefs went from this would go down as the greatest team of all time to actually they're frauds, and this is the start of the dynasty's over.
It's over, yeah, it's just done.
Like in one game.
And the Eagles could do that. Like their defense is that good. And their offense, like they're still sitting on this offense. It's an exploding whale offense, Sam. We haven't had an exploding whale game. It's an exploding whale offense. They did it against Minnesota, right? We've been raving about Brian Flores for the last month and a half. Remember what they did to Minnesota? He threw for like 315 on 15 completions, Jalen Hurts. It's an exploding whale offense where in a given week, if A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith both go over 100 and Barkley runs for 150, including a 60-yarder, you're not going to be that surprised. Well, they're capable of that.
Yeah, it's that It's not that it's that, yeah, okay, look, it's predictable, it's maybe inefficient, and it goes through vast lulls of plays where it doesn't make anything, but it is explosive. I mean, that's the thing. They are capable at any of those guys, any of them. Jalen Hurts himself, Devontae Smith / Lynn Swann, A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, even, Dallas Goedert. Everybody in that offense is capable of a 50-yard play in the blink of an eye if you switch off, right? And that was what happened with the Flores thing is, that whole thing of every now and again you're going to be one-on-one with Jeffrey Okudah. They're able to do, that's the offense for the Eagles. They manufacture specifically these one-on-one matchups, and then if they get them, they're just going to take a shot. Eventually, those guys will win the play just by being a better athlete or more physical or bigger, stronger, faster than the guy trying to stop them. So most of the time, that ends up being quite inefficient. But it doesn't mean that you can't go on a run where you get a bunch of those plays in the same game and suddenly you put up 30 points without thinking about it.
No, absolutely. So, again, I feel like the Eagles are coming in with some warts, some questions. But if they were sitting there at the end of the year, I wouldn't be surprised. And then we're talking about, are they actually the real dynasty? Is the real dynasty in Philadelphia? Are they the next dynastic team here?
I mean, whatever about dynasty, but you go down in a pretty elite group of teams if you repeat.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if anything happens with these playoffs. I'm fired up for the NFL playoffs this year. It's going to be fun.
Playoff Jalen Hurts, playoff Dom.
Oh, man, we need playoff Dom. Did he have some he got into it with the Niners, right? In that game. That was when Dom became famous. This is like anniversary for Dom.
Because the guy lashed out at him.
Was he there last year?
No, he lashed out at the guy.
Did you see him at the Senior Bowl last year, or was that just me 2 years ago?
I think we saw him.
He had the Escalade a couple years ago.
No, I didn't see that, but I think we saw him.
We have a pickup truck.
Nice.
For the Senior Bowl is what I rented for a couple extra bucks on Mark.
Is that like a big one or small? What are we doing? What are we driving?
I think it's decent size.
Decent size.
We've upgraded pickup truck for the Senior Bowl this year.
For that stupid road system in Mobile.
Oh yeah.
Great.
Lots of seafood. Can't wait. All right. Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else on this game? Eagles by 4.5. Sunday, 4:30. What are you doing?
Eagles.
Oh, man. I like the Eagles. Niners fans are always calling. I'm taking the Niners. Niners fans are always calling me out for picking against them. Eagles by 3, though. So Eagles by 3. So the Niners cover. The Niners cover, we'll say. Only 2 more games to get through. Quick break to talk about our friends over at Root Insurance. Root Insurance believes that good drivers deserve better rates, so they've created a new kind of car insurance that rewards good drivers in an easy-to-use app. Traditional car insurance companies focus on demographics like age, zip code, occupation, and credit score to price your coverage. But when Root offers a rate, your behavior behind the wheel gets more weight than any other single factor. They don't use occupation or education level to negatively affect your rate. While you drive, Root gathers and analyzes data from your smartphone sensors, and after a few weeks, you'll get a car insurance quote based primarily on your driving. Save up to 44% off your initial Root quote after you take the test drive. If you need a tow truck, jump start, or you lock your keys in the car, Root will cover the help you need to get back on the road when you opt into roadside assistance. The Root app makes it easy to edit your coverage, update your policy, or file a claim in just 3 minutes. You can get started today at Root.com. All right, Sunday night. Game starts at 8. Don't be deceived. Los Angeles Chargers at the New England Patriots. Patriots favored by 3.5. A 2-7 matchup here. Patriots and Chargers. Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady, right?
Old man Rivers.
Old man Rivers.
Ironically, both those guys could still be playing right now. Like, if Old man Rivers was playing a week or so ago, and Tom Brady could easily roll out of bed right now and just go play football and be, perfectly serviceable.
He could go. Go. Patriots by 3.5. This is another really fun one here. No snow, I don't believe, but we're looking at pretty cold. 20 to 34 degrees, according to the my document here. It feels like 12 to 20. It'd be cold in New England.
So the field,
feels like
the Chargers, interestingly, are one of the few dome/warm weather teams that I have no fear of playing in the cold. I feel like they're fine. They're designed for cold weather as much as any dome team is.
Well, usually you say the teams that are designed for cold weather run the ball and have a good offensive line.
Now, they don't have that.
It's not that.
No, but it's Justin Herbert.
They play defense.
In my brain, Justin Herbert is playing in the cold with his plastic hand and, running out there making miracles happen by himself. The run game, okay, the offensive line stinks, but their running backs, I think, are perfectly well-suited for cold weather environment. I think they like blocking on the outside. And their defense is good. Like, this is a team, I think, that's actually designed pretty well to play in the cold.
This is a fun one. New England has had there's all the data points out there. Renner and Aaron Schatz, like one of the easiest schedules of all time. Now that we have hindsight, right? And because the Ravens lost, I believe they only have one win against a team with a winning record.
Right. The Giants have more wins.
Right. The Giants have 2 wins against teams with winning records. The Patriots have 1 because the Bucs collapsed, the Ravens collapsed or just weren't good. The Panthers were 8-9. Like, they beat the Panthers 42-13. That's the ironic thing, right? They beat the Panthers, who were in the playoffs, but they're only 8-9, so it doesn't count. So it's a test. I think 2 things are true. The path to having 14 wins was probably easy for the Patriots.
Yeah.
And I also think they're a very good team.
This is the thing. It doesn't – look, it's perfectly reasonable. And we knew this coming into the season, right? I banged on about this all offseason. Like, there are 3 teams, according to projected win rate, who actually have a materially different schedule than everybody else. And the Patriots had by far the easiest schedule in the NFL going into the season. They had the easiest schedule in the NFL. They took advantage of the easiest schedule in the NFL. It was a real factor in their season. It doesn't mean they're not good. It just means they've been playing the game on easy mode for the entire season. And now it's not going to be on easy mode, right? They've run into the playoffs, and someone has gone into the computer game settings and upped the difficulty from rookie mode to, all pro or whatever, right? Now, that doesn't mean the guy wasn't a baller all along. It just means he's been playing the game on easy mode, and now he's going to step up the difficulty level, not just 1 notch, but multiple notches. So, both things can be true, that it's definitely a thing. Like, it's not like it didn't impact them at all, but it doesn't mean that it's the reason they can't win football games. Like, we've already seen, they played Buffalo twice, right? Split that series and could have won both those games. So we know they're capable of hanging with good football teams. We just don't know, can they go on that kind of run? What happens if they face those teams week after week after week? So I think it's been a little bit overblown. Like, it's not like you'd be crazy to look at them and say the schedule had no impact whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not just crazy, you'd be an idiot. I think you'd also be an idiot to be like, this team is only a product of their schedule, right? They are in no way, right, shape, or like, they're complete frauds. Like, one of those fraudulent teams that make the playoffs and immediately just get hammered because they've got no business. I think you'd be pretty crazy to look at this team and say they are obviously that right now. It's a complete fabrication of their schedule. They don't belong here in any way, shape, or form. Drake May's a total fraud. So they're somewhere in the middle. They've been helped by their schedule, but they're probably also a very good football team who now just have to have a more difficult run.
Right. Completely agree. The Chargers' offensive line we've talked about all season, and I think there's a point where that just runs its course, right?
What? Like the discourse?
Where they just can't. Oh. No. Like, where they just can't overcome it in a football game.
Yeah.
Which included, like, the Patriots. They lost to the Texans a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Their biggest challenges, we didn't really get to see their starters against the Broncos, but that would have been the big challenge. The Patriots aren't the most equipped team,
right, to
take advantage of it, but you still have Milton Williams up front. Like, you still have some guys who can get after the quarterback, and the Chargers are working with second and third string offensive linemen. It's still an advantage for New England, both run game and pass game. So Herbert, who, we've talked about as this MVP candidate, if you look at what he's been able to do.
That's right.
What he's been able to do given the circumstances, where it's like PFF and SIS and ESPN, no matter which measure, and just you watch football, Sam, we watch a lot of football. The O-line's an issue.
Not just an issue.
But they are like the worst or second worst offensive line by almost every measure.
That's the thing.
From a pass blocking perspective, and it's close from a run blocking perspective.
Yes. So NFL Researcher on Twitter says the Chargers finished the season with the most different offensive line combinations in the NFL. 32, right? Which is 2 more than anybody else this season, and does not include already losing a Pro Bowl caliber left tackle before the season even began, right? So, like, one combination is immediately added to that, and the guy that got lost then was a Pro Bowler. So They've had the most combinations in the NFL. And yes, by most measures, this is either the worst or the second worst offensive line in football, right? So this is a catastrophe. Like that's, these things you can, we've been focusing on various offensive lines in the NFL this season where you're like, they're bottom third. There's a player here who's a real problem. The Chargers have the worst offensive line in the NFL, and that is a serious factor in whether or not Justin Herbert can win a game, whether or not their playmakers can do anything. Like, again, if you want to construct the argument for Justin Herbert to be MVP, you would say he has taken this team to the playoffs with the worst offensive line in the NFL. Apparently, the Chargers are the only team in the league this season without a single player on offense to have more than 800 scrimmage yards. The only team. So no individual playmaker has done anything remotely special for the Chargers, and he's got the worst offensive line in the NFL, and yet Herbert has still helped drag this team to where they are.
As I was, I always watch, I always have like old football games on while I'm working, watching film, whatever I'm doing. I was thinking the other day, watching this game from the early 2000s, how the analysis has changed over the years. It used to be like if the quarterback gets sacked a high percentage of that, or if there's a big sack number, you're like, oh, this offensive line's a real issue. Now that we have different ways of measuring.
It's almost flipped.
Well, yeah, like you can add another layer of analysis. It's not just sack totals. It's, well, this line is bad. Herbert's been sacked 54 times. It's not like it's at 25 and he's just been surviving. Like you would get to the right conclusion. But May's been sacked 47 times. That's a lot. But May's actually had a better offensive line than Herbert.
Who was it? Mike Silver, I think, was arguing with somebody on Twitter about this the other day.
He just dropped sack totals for Stafford versus May.
That was it. Yeah.
It was like May has 47, Stafford has.
But it's like I think,
23.
But I think he's trying to argue the opposite point to the reality. Like the thing is, it went from sacks being basically 100% attributed to the offensive line, right? Now I would argue actually most people are flipping it too far in the opposite direction, and people are almost ascribing them 100% to the quarterback. And the reality is it's a mix, and every single situation is different, and you need to have a vague idea of which one is more of a factor on this particular team. Whereas you have people out there, I would say who would remain nameless, but actually who remain Mike Silver, who just dropped the number and are like, it speaks for itself. Like, it doesn't, though. You actually need to bring some analysis to this. You can't just be like, well, there's more sacks here, therefore X, right? In Justin Herbert's situation, he took an absolute ton of sacks because he has the worst offensive line in the NFL. Yeah. Now, does that mean on every single play Herbert was not a factor? No. Obviously, there's going to be plays where he factored into it as well. But generally speaking, Herbert's high sack total is because his offensive line is cheeks, right? Drake May, I would argue, generally speaking, his high sack total is because Drake May is more a factor than the offensive line.
If you were going to put something again, like May doesn't have a lot of negatives this year. That would be the one thing you'd say is a bit of a negative, and it got better as the season went on.
And yet people will just look at the number and argue it as the same thing in either direction. Yeah. Like these are radically different circumstances here.
It's not. Mike Silver's not part of the analytics community, but I think that's what I said this yesterday. Like a lot of the analytics people have come around to, right? It's like data, information in it, but then it's like, let me just cling to this one number.
Well, he was putting it out there.
If you say QB sacks are a QB stat, then their brain just goes 100% no matter what. Like let's say Geno Smith's number 1, 55, Cam Ward 55, Justin Herbert 54. They're all the same,
right? Well, he's full old school with that. He's just posting it. Drake May has a way higher sack total than Matthew Stafford. Therefore, Drake May's offensive line was ass, whereas Matthew Stafford's was very good. Therefore, he's MVP. You're like, actually, Drake May was responsible.
I thought Silver was trying to.
No, I think he's trying to argue that his offensive line was worse.
But he's an LA guy. I thought because him and Witt, like everybody was like, just give it to Stafford. I thought he was going to be on the Stafford camp.
Maybe he is. I read that as he's basically he's saying that May's offensive line is a lot worse, whereas actually in reality, Drake May's quite a factor in those sacks.
It's just funny because
by the way, in reality, I don't think the sack total is a particularly large needle mover in that debate at all between the two of them.
Between May and Stafford?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't either.
Like if you're arguing MVP, it would be 58th in my list of things to split them with.
But like, why would you ever just use one little That's the problem right now. Like all of the MVP debates on Twitter are like, look at this one stat, look at this one stat, look at these 6 games, look at this 4-game sample. It's like this is dumb. Yeah, it's really dumb.
It's kind of partly a product of that's how Twitter is designed, right?
Anyway, the Herbert thing, like the line's been awful. I think New England can take advantage. If the Chargers get through this game, they would definitely be playing Denver, right? So they're the 7 seed. They would be locked in to play Denver. Though it's the Broncos, it's the Texans. Those are the teams I think would really take advantage of that offensive line. But even then, Herbert back in week 3 with fewer injuries, but they still had injuries up front, found a way to beat the Broncos. Like those are all the feather in the cap of what Herbert's done.
Yeah. I mean, again, he's, I think, done
just a couple MVP candidates in this game.
An absolutely amazing job just given that offensive line. Remember, they won against Philadelphia in that game where he was getting murdered with the plastic hand, and just like every time he was getting destroyed in that game.
The stats were awful.
And yeah, exactly. And people use that game as an argument for, he's not really been very good. Justin Herbert made some crazy plays in that game. Now, there was also a lot of bad in there as well because he was getting destroyed and his arm was broken or whatever. But he was making ridiculous things happen in that game, given the circumstance where, again, he was pressured like 80% of the time or something ridiculous. So he's already shown that in circumstances, I think, that would break basically every quarterback. We talk about 50% being a threshold, where if you're under pressure 50% of the time, it's probably game over. I can't remember what the number was in that game, but it was like 70 plus, right? And they won the game. So there's no situation. Like the Patriots will almost certainly get quite a lot of pressure on Justin Herbert in this game because everybody will. But there's almost no circumstances in which it's enough for them to rule the Chargers out.
The Patriots have the type of pass rushers that can beat up on 2nd and 3rd tier tackles and guards, right? Kayvon Chason, Harold Landry, don't necessarily trust those guys. I mean, Chason's really turned his career around the last couple of years, but don't trust those guys winning one-on-ones against good tackles consistently. But between Chason, Landry, Christian Barmore, Milton Williams, like they can get after Herbert, and if they sack him 4 or 5 times, it's going to be tough for the Chargers. So I think Herbert's going to play the superhuman game, figure out how to get the ball into Omarion Hampton's hands, their running back's hands really, just to create some big plays and survive up front. The battle on the other side is going to be a fun one. Potential MVP Drake May, the consistency that he's played with this year. The Chargers are number 2 in EPA per play allowed on 10-plus yard throws. So can May play that patient game? Because it's that Minter defense where they make you take all the underneath stuff. They usually don't have busted coverages. They did a couple weeks ago against the against the Texans. So take a couple shots downfield, but you got to play this clean game, and that's the biggest improvement in May's game, right? Like when you talk about, I always describe Mahomes as he's got all these special plays, but what made him special was hitting the easy stuff, playing from within the pocket, playing within structure, and then sprinkling in the special. I think May has solved that, right? He has played the high efficiency underneath game. He's not missing throws like he did coming out of UNC. The big question, is footwork and missing easy stuff. He's taking care of all that. And then when you need special throws down the field, he's got that too. When he's got to take off and run, he has that too. So he's just got to play a good, clean game like that for New England to win as the favorite here.
Yeah, he does. The Chargers have a good defense, but it's not a great defense. And I think sometimes you see the lack of talent on the field show up in certain situations for them. Like if Drake May continues what he's doing, the Patriots are in a great spot.
All right, man. What else on this game? Was there any other analysis that you wanted to add here? Did I have another? I had another number here. The Chargers. Okay, keep an eye on Hunter Henry. Okay, the Chargers are bottom 5.
Revenge game.
Well, in a revenge game. Bottom 5 in EPA per play allowed against inline tight ends. But they're they're third best against outside receivers. So it could be a middle of the field game. And keep an eye on, Derwin James, number 3.
Slot corner.
Derwin James.
Designated officially as a slot corner.
You're allowed
by the AP.
Explain that part.
I can explain
of it, right?
that, yeah.
Okay.
The AP lists like official designations for certain people so that everyone's on the same page in terms of where they're voting for them for All-Pro. Derwin James was officially designated a slot corner for the purposes of this year's All-Pro.
All right.
As was Jalen Petrie and some other people.
So guys who are safety in name but lined up in the slot.
Yep.
More often than not. All right, man, let's make a pick. I'm looking forward to this one, too. This is a great game. This will be a great game. Sunday night in New England. Patriots' first home game since 2019 in the playoffs.
Yep. I'm going to go with New England, though the more we talk that out, the more I like the Chargers again.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I think this is here's what I wanted to mention. Justin Herbert's played. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence has played 2 playoff games. Justin Herbert has played 2 playoff games.
You can call him a choker?
I will tell you what happened. You can say whatever you'd like. The first game was the blown big lead against Trevor Lawrence's Jags. They lose 31-30. The only real play in that game that stood out, he had a touchdown opportunity that he just completely missed, and they had to kick a field goal. And big play. And then last year against Houston, Herbert went 14 of 32 with a touchdown and 4 picks, and an 86-yarder late to Ladd McConkey. So he's got something to prove here. Narrative game for Herbert.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for May in his first playoff.
So you're picking the Patriots?
I think I'm taking New England here. Yeah, I don't like the hook. I don't like 3.5, but I'll take the Patriots.
We have some breaking news.
I was going to save it till the end. Do you want to just review the Texans-Steelers game, and then we can...
Let's break it in now. People live. It's live. It's live news. Breaking news.
Since you played the music, Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel has been...
I was going to read the statement, but that's fine.
Fired. Okay, read the statement.
Statement from Dolphins chairman and owner Stephen M. Ross. After careful evaluation and extensive discussion since the season ended, I have made the decision that our organization is in need of comprehensive change. I informed Mike McDaniel this morning that he has been relieved of his duties as head coach. I love Mike and want to thank him for his hard work, commitment, and energy he brought to our organization. Mike is an incredibly creative football mind whose passion for the game and its players was evident every day. I wish him and his family the best moving forward.
That was very
kind.
Stephen. It'd be great if he started off with, we didn't talk about this much, but on a whim, we're going to...
I don't remember...
Instead of, we've had a lot of conversations.
I don't remember a parting of ways statement involving, I love the guy that I fired.
I love him so much. We just
unique, right?
Had to do it.
I don't remember that before.
I wonder, so it's taken till Thursday for that to happen. They're down to their final 4 GM candidates.
Yeah. I
wonder how much, by the way, my sources.
What if all the 49ers people were like, we don't want to work with Mike? Mike's identified all the former 49ers as GM candidates, and all of them came in and were like, I don't want to work with that guy again.
My sources seem to think that the whole process is a bit of a sham.
I could believe that. Bearing in mind that 2 of the people in the room are apparently Dan Marino and Troy Aikman.
I have people
also
suggesting.
The owner and his son.
I have
son-in-law.
I have people suggesting, I don't know if it'll happen, but there's some sort of internal candidate who will get elevated to a Matt Ryan-like presidential position.
President Dan?
Not Dan. It's not a player. But they'll have some sort of...
It's about time they made Dan a president.
Now, that statement suggesting a complete overhaul.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is poor journal. I'm not a journalist, so I can do this. One man's opinion.
Certainly not a master.
One person's opinion.
Yeah.
Knowing what they know about the
Look,
Dolphins.
the Dolphins...
Is that they're going to do some sort of internal elevation and then a GM and that they've already got they already know who it is. They already have an idea.
The Dolphins have not been regarded as the best run organization in the NFL for, quite some time, maybe ever. So that wouldn't be shocking if that was the case. Also, again, there's a place for former great players to throw their tuppence into your thing, right? I'm not sure the place is in the room of 6 people determining the future of your franchise. So Dan Marino being part of this, I think, is not it wouldn't strike me as a great sign. Troy Aikman being brought in for his consultancy advice just because he's Troy. I don't really understand that either. So that's and then the owner's son-in-law or something, right? So that's 4 of the 6 people at the helm of this search are people I would not say have a particularly useful voice in the room, right? That's not great. And then you've got the other 2 trying to presumably steer it in the correct direction, and whether or not they'll make it there or not, who knows? You've also got this element of, they made the GM change months ago, and then now it's Well, now we've decided Mike's got to go too. I wonder if the Harbaugh thing is relevant here. Like,
yes.
Remember when the report was that Harbaugh was fired and immediately 7 teams reached out to his agent? Well, there were only 6 vacancies at that point. A lot of people speculated Miami might be the 7th team, and that would be Mike McDaniel, obviously, on the way out. I don't know if Harbaugh would want any part of this Miami organization, but maybe they think they can get him.
The connection people have made, one of the finalists is Chad Alexander, assistant GM for the Chargers, who was with the Ravens. And so the connection would be if Alexander gets the job to pair with Harbaugh, and then you've got the Ravens connection. Then they keep Anthony Weaver. And then we're
head coach in waiting.
Head coach in waiting, Anthony Weaver.
Maybe Weaver gets the job.
I mean, he's going to be coveted, according to a lot of people.
Right.
So
running a defense that got wrecked every week.
So McDaniel's out. That means our friend Bobby's probably looking for his next.
2 Slowiks, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So there's a lot of moving parts there. A lot of people are already saying, hey, Mike McDaniel immediately becomes one of the hottest offensive coordinators.
Yes. That's the thing. I don't know if you would hire him again as a head coach right now, but I would imagine if you wanted a coordinator, you'd be all over that.
I saw our friend Mitchell Schwartz, former Chiefs legend, 0-time Pro Bowler, suggested.
Wow.
What? I just had to. It's just part of the descriptor. It's a little nudge, a little jab. A little jab. I mean, he's got 0, right? He was sensitive about that. Same number of Pro Bowls as me and you.
Right.
He's a legend, though, Chiefs legend. 1 pressure allowed in the 2019 Super Bowl run for Mitchell Schwartz. He was saying, that'd be a great fit for the Chiefs if they would do that.
Mike McDaniel?
Yeah. I don't think has Andy Reid ever gone outside of his little trust tree?
I don't know.
Before?
That would be fascinating, actually, McDaniel with the Chiefs.
Because it's not like it's a different offense, but it's still West Coast roots. I mean, you could track. Yeah. Reid was way back in the Gruden.
He was like the original, he's part of the original posse of the
old
West
school
Coast
West
offense
Coast,
guys.
right?
Yeah.
The tree, it's a big tree. It's a big tree. Like they diverged at some point, but it's a big tree. That would be
he slowly evolved into the Mike Holmgren. Like he was always like a baby Mike Holmgren, just lower down with the smaller mustache, and he's slowly evolved into Mike Holmgren as the years have gone on.
He has. So just it's a name to keep an eye on. Mike McDaniel as offensive coordinator. Our friend Bobby, out and about, see what happens there. And then what the Dolphins do.
It's not been a good year for former colleagues.
Has not been.
A lot of firings.
So let's see what happens with the Harbaugh-Alexander thing is one to keep an eye on.
Yeah. I've not verified this, but I would imagine Bobby, with his pale complexion, did not enjoy the Miami sunshine, right? At least he gets to get away from that.
Interesting angle.
There's a lot of benefits to being employed by a professional football team like the Miami Dolphins, but dude, that would be obnoxious. I mean, I went to training camp there for like a day. I'm like, this would be awful.
It's warm.
If this was my daily experience.
It's warm. It is warm there. Anything else on McDaniel?
No. Again, kind of fascinated that the statement says he loves him. Don't remember that before with a firing statement.
I imagine there's a lot of situations where you do really like the guy personally. It's like,
but usually you limit that to the last part. We wish him and his family the best, right? Wish him all success. It's been great, but it's time to go. You very rarely, if ever,
love you,
say,
Mike.
I love you as you're firing him.
Brian Flores to Miami?
Did you see Fitzpatrick talking about Flores in his podcast with Big
Was
Whip?
that recent? Because he's broken that down.
I think that was
before.
pretty recent.
Because he's told that story. Those types of stories.
Well, I mean, he's
before.
consistent telling that story.
What I couldn't remember before he told those stories, but Fitzpatrick was basically saying Flores
awful,
was
hateful.
I couldn't remember because remember Tua didn't like Flores, and a big part of it was they didn't want to just roll with Tua. They benched him for Fitzpatrick because he wanted to win games right away, and Fitzpatrick won games and was more equipped to play at that time than Tua.
Right.
I didn't until Fitzpatrick started telling those stories. I didn't realize that he
also hated.
right, because he was Flores' guy.
Well, that's what Fitzpatrick was basically saying is that by the end, everybody hated him. Fitzpatrick's one of the things he was saying in this thing is if you're interviewing Flores now, I would want to ask him, give me anybody from Miami who will have a good thing to say about you. Right now, look, if I was talking to Fitz, I would ask him like, okay, but to what extent would you open the door for the idea that a guy can grow and evolve and become a different person, right? And
he suggested
learn from it.
And Fitz was tactful in how he described this too, because he said, "Hey, I haven't been with him the last couple of years." Paraphrasing, of course, but he went to Pittsburgh.
Right.
He's been to Minnesota. He's seen other leadership styles. Did he pick anything up from Tomlin?
Yeah, but he was sort of
suggesting
suggesting that he will come across well in the interview.
Yeah.
Because he did in Miami at the beginning before it all went south. But he was basically suggesting, again, paraphrasing, I don't think I'm misrepresenting what he's saying or putting words in his mouth, but he's basically suggesting that he'll come across really well in the interview, but in Miami, by the end, he had become this egotistical dictator, and things it became awful, right? And the inference was that will happen again. Now, my question would be, like, do you have any time for the idea that a guy can grow beyond that, or is that just who he is and who he will always be?
We had the same conversation about Josh McDaniels.
Yes, and obviously he did not grow
before
beyond
he went
that.
to the Raiders,
right?
And you could craft a pretty good argument there, right? It's like things went sour quickly in Denver.
Yeah.
Then he had a decade of offensive coordinator experience back in New England. Surely and he was in like his mid-30s when he first went. Like, surely you're going to be a different guy there. And then he goes to the Raiders, and people are talking about
just runs it back.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And so, look, I'm not big on like one or two data points, but that's one of those data points where the problem wasn't X's and O's. The problem was people managing and being a head coach
and not changing.
The difference with Flores, though, if you had no outside information, his 2 years in Miami were a success given the roster that they had.
Sure.
They overachieved in 2019 and 20 with Brian Flores. Overachieved relative to expectations. So not knowing anything about how it went down, you could say he at least won over what was expected there.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean he needs the next shot or whatever, but it'll be an interesting discussion.
The Dolphins' job is not an amazing one at the moment either, because you're stuck with this Tua situation, who's probably stuck on the roster, but probably can't start anymore based off, recent evidence. So you've got, what do you do with him? Can you turn it over to Quinn Ewers and maybe stink for a year and try and do things that way? Like, it's not the most appealing gig in the world for a new head coach.
No, unless you're in a division. Look, I think they should treat this almost like the Raiders in the West. Like, you're in a division with the upstart Patriots and Bills. You're still above the Jets right now, but take a rebuild year to figure out quarterback.
How much do you think this was Troy not liking nerds? You bring in Troy to consult, and suddenly the nerd drop kicked out of the building.
McDaniel?
Yeah, he's a nerd.
He's a nerd?
Of course, he's a nerd.
He's a nerd who's he's a nerd.
He's a football nerd, but he's a nerd.
He's like the guy from Office Space, right? He's like nerd look, but he's rap lyric, the hardcore rap lyrics and stuff like that.
He's a nerd just in an unconventional specialty.
Got it.
Okay. Usually nerds are into like computer science or whatever, but he's into
just
football.
X's and O's.
Yeah, he's
Football
into football, but in a nerd way.
Football nerd.
But the point is, like, he's the kind of person, I imagine immediately Troy would have a visceral reaction against Mike McDaniel. Like, Troy, archetypal old school football jock, comes up against Mike McDaniel. And even if he isn't into this, in Troy's eyes, all he sees is analytics when he looks at Mike McDaniel, right? And you know the reaction Troy has against analytics.
He's not even a big analytics guy.
McDaniel. No, but like when Troy looks at McDaniel, all he sees is analytics.
He's like, you definitely go for it.
He sees a spreadsheet.
In your own territory.
Right.
You don't punt and play defense.
When Troy looks at McDaniel, he sees a spreadsheet. And that angers him.
He sees R. He hates
Troy
R.
doesn't know the difference.
No,
he just sees a spreadsheet and it angers him.
Bert Breer has already theorized that McDaniel will be coveted as an offensive coordinator, and the theory was perhaps in Washington with old boss Dan Quinn and with Jaden Daniels.
That would be interesting.
I think that would be.
Yeah, like imagine the discussion. Troy's like, "Hey, Mike, where'd you go to college?" Yale. Ugh. That's how it would go.
That's exactly how it would go. Oh, Mike McDaniel has been relieved of his duties in Miami.
It's such a great euphemism.
It is.
Relieved of his duties.
We got one more game.
I love him, but we've had to relieve him of his duties.
You ready?
Yeah.
celebrates Michael Bolton's entire catalog, almost certainly. Houston Texans at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't know what to do with this one, Sam. Texans by 3. Monday night, super wild card weekend. Monday night, 8:15. Coverage starts at 8 with Troy. Over-unders 39.5 per FanDuel.
And you watch every week for Troy and Joe. They're big watch clothes horses, I guess. They
wear a different watch every week?
Pretty sure, yeah. I mean, they
definitely
lay
them out. They lay
rotate
them out
heavily.
17 watches.
They definitely rotate heavily. I mean, I don't know
bust out the best one for the playoff game. You got one.
I mean, the last one, Troy was. I sent you the picture. The last one, Troy was week 18. Troy had like a $33,000 Rolex on. So I don't know what. You don't have much room to get better than that, you know.
Wow.
Now you do have some room, but not much.
I mean, you get Derek room.
That's exactly it, right? You can go higher, but you're into some pretty rare air already. Is this line genuinely moved by Tomlin's Monday Night Football ridiculous streak thing? Because I would have expected this to be bigger in Houston's favor.
There's a chance I sound like an absolute idiot.
Why would you say that?
On Tuesday.
Oh, just I thought you meant generally.
No, I mean generally maybe, but on Tuesday. But I think the line is partially the Monday night. Tomlin, all Steelers coaches, they just don't lose Monday night at home.
Ever.
I think is Pittsburgh best equipped to handle Houston's defense?
Just because they don't.
Just because they're
passing.
Just because they throw the ball quick. I mean, it's a weird one, right? Because 2 weeks ago, the Steelers got rid of the ball lightning quick and they couldn't complete a pass.
Yeah.
But they didn't have DK Metcalf. That's a factor.
Right. Definitely.
So they faced the Browns defensive line a couple weeks ago. Couldn't complete a pass, couldn't do anything. But on paper, and they're not even great at passing the ball quick, they're just going to do it often, the Steelers. Are they the best, most equipped team to at least, deal with Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, and that pass rush of the Texans, who are always going to rush 4, and you know what they're going to get. And if you're rushing 4 against a team that's getting rid of the ball in 2.5 seconds, you're not going to get a lot of pressure.
Yeah, but it's what is the result of how you're dealing with it. I mean, I think they are well equipped to avoid Aaron Rodgers being sacked a lot, but I don't know that means offensive success.
Yeah,
I think they still, in the way that they Houston will destroy a lot of teams by getting a ton of pressure, forcing turnovers, or just forcing massive negative plays and sacks or holding or whatever it is, and that's the way they win, right? I feel like they will have a lot of success against Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers just by forcing the ball out quickly, tackling them for a 2-yard gain, and still forcing punts, right? It's just going to be a different way of success.
That's a good point, right? They'll get the ball out quickly. The Ravens' tackling was awful the other day, and they were almost just giving that space. And the fact that the Texans aren't going to blitz, they'll have their back 7, just go up and tackle and keep it to 5-yard gains. I just wonder if Rodgers, it did at the end of the game, it felt like a whole bunch of jabs, and then they finally started to hit a couple shots down the field. I wonder if they try to get after that earlier in this game against the Texans, or if it's the same strategy, a whole bunch of jabs underneath stuff, but at some point the Steelers have to take some shots down the field, especially to DK.
That's the thing. I'm almost more interested in, with DK Metcalf coming back in, do they, just take shots with him? Do they actually just go and see, because some of their best, the best offense they've played this season is when they've just taken shots to DK Metcalf deep down the field and tried to find explosives in there. Do they do that now that he's back? Also, I mean, okay, it's a mix of backups and it's late in the season and they don't really have anything to play for, but randomly Houston last week was actually exposed with those deep shots. So is that part of their game at all, or does this pass rush just terrify them so much that they're going to be, like the Ravens' game plan was for most of it, which is a million screenplays and swings and stuff.
So that side of the ball is going to be interesting, right? I mean, the Texans have a chance. They get by this game. They're the 5 seed. If everything else, goes to seeding, they'll go to Denver in round 2. But I think the Texans have the defense that can just go on that run where you keep coming back to what do we think now? What will we think in 4 weeks? If the Texans are the team that make the run, you're going to be saying this is the best defense since, right? The Eagles had a great defense last year, but they were such a good all-around team. Nobody's putting the Eagles' defense in this different echelon historically, even though they just did what they did against Kansas City in the Super Bowl. But if the Texans do it, because they're not as strong offensively, if the Texans go on this run, you're going to say best since 2015 Broncos and the 2000 Ravens. And the stats might not say it exactly, but that's what we're going to be talking about. So they're absolutely capable of it.
Interestingly, NFL NGS stuff has a quick game split. It's level for quick game. It's just anything under 2.5 seconds coming out. Texans defense in terms of EPA per play against quick passes is only 13th.
That's what I've seen something similar. So that's what I'm saying. Like, they're not, on one hand.
They actually have surprisingly few quick pressures as well.
Do they?
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably just because they're rushing 4 so
sure.
much. Some of those charts that are fun, how many rushers and how much disguise do you use? And the Texans are in their own quadrant of no disguise and 4-man rush.
But, for example, the Tennessee Titans have more quick pressures than against quick. I think
they do a lot more sim pressure, 5-man stuff.
Yes, but with the only team in this category or in this group that has a lower blitz rate than the Texans, according to this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I guess.
For example, Flores and the Vikings have almost double the quick pressures, but they also blitz like 3
crazy,
times higher. So that makes sense.
Titans have Jeffrey Simmons too. So
but Denver doesn't blitz that much, and they have 24 more quick pressures. Tampa Bay does blitz a lot more. You know what I mean? It's a mix. Point is, they're surprisingly crappy in terms of quick pressures with those elite edge rushers.
I think so. So on one hand, I think the Steelers have a chance to get the ball out quick and maybe make some plays. Now, I don't necessarily trust them after the catch, and I don't know that they're going to make plays. This game could look like what the Kansas City game against the Texans on Sunday Night Football, where you have, Jalen Petry's, big hit on Rashee Rice. Like, you've got the Texans working downhill unless the Steelers come out right away. And this is what I'm curious about with the Steelers. Does Rodgers come out right away? Remember against the Ravens in the biggest game of the year, early December, just chucks it down the field, first play, throws a dot to DK Metcalf, and it just kind of loosens the defense up a little bit. Now, there's a difference between the Ravens corners and then Derek Stingley and Kamari Lassiter. Mm-hmm. But I do wonder if you're like, get DK back in this.
Yeah.
How much more motivated is DK coming off a 2-game suspension here? So I think that's the X factor. Plus, do you move DK around away from Lassiter and away from Stingley? Remember the slot play he had against Minnesota, middle of the field, catch and run. I mean, do you move him around and attack different areas of the field rather than just trusting him outside against those good corners?
And also, is Aaron Rodgers capable of elevating his game in the playoffs? I mean, Tomlin, I think, has already been out there basically saying, this is the game. Like, this is why we got Aaron Rodgers, right? It's this game. Because look at it from Tomlin's perspective. I mean, this is sort of business as usual in terms of, scrape your winning season, scrape your way into the playoffs, and then usually the MO from this point on is he gets annihilated, right? In Tomlin's eyes, Aaron Rodgers is the difference between getting annihilated and now I've got a Hall of Fame quarterback so we can win this game, right? And, I mean, from the outside, that may seem crazy, but inside, it makes perfect sense to them.
This is the whole starting point, right? So we're talking a lot about the Steelers' offense. Let's go to the narrative and the history stuff. We got the Steelers Monday night thing, where they just don't lose on Monday night at home. Coming against them, the Pittsburgh Steelers have not won a playoff game since 2016, the 2016 season. Their last 5 playoff games, they lost 45-42 to the 2017 Jags, 48-37 to the Baker Mayfield Browns, 42-21 to Mahomes and the Chiefs, 31-17 to the Bills, and 28-14 to the Ravens last year. And they've been outscored, 73-0 in the first quarter of those games. So you have the head coach who adheres to the most consistent trends that I've ever seen in Mike Tomlin.
Yep.
And the two trends, so they're probably going to fall behind 14-0 in the first half and then win, right? In the first quarter and then win. Like that, those are the two things to keep the trends alive.
On a Rodgers Hail Mary?
On a Rodgers Hail Mary. Exactly. It's exactly what's going to happen.
The other thing, though, DK Metcalf gets ejected from the game against Detroit. Then you have suspension for the 2 games against Cleveland and Baltimore. Before that, Rodgers was on a run of maybe the best 3-game stretch since he was a Packer, right? Like it felt like those 3 weeks before Metcalf gets suspended, it's like, actually, the Steelers are just rounding into form now. Rodgers is looking better. The offense is more explosive. We're just about getting, like, it looked like they were becoming respectable. For the entire year, it was like this, whoever wins this division is a joke and they're going home immediately, right? And then for that 3-week stretch, Baltimore, Miami, and Detroit, it's like maybe the Steelers can actually hang in the playoffs against real teams. And then DK gets suspended. The Browns' loss happens. It's like, fire Tomlin. Okay, they squeak by the Ravens, but it still doesn't feel good. If DK makes that difference, like if they just jump back into that stretch, immediately they get back to that level, it is a different team than it was in the last 2 weeks.
It is. And even, I don't want to overrate DK because we're talking just like a couple games. But it's only been a couple games. Like the Steelers' offense for this year overall has been poor.
Yes.
But there have been these individual games and these stretches where it's like, all right, there's something there where if they could at least play good enough defense, they're tough out.
I'm not putting it 100% down to DK, but if it's Rodgers elevating his game because he feels more comfortable that DK is out there, like whatever it is, if DK being back and Rodgers, is able to get to that level that he was at before DK was suspended and the offense had to become some kind of farcical screen and running back system. Then it does become interesting. Like there might be something to the idea that a Hall of Fame quarterback with a 20-year NFL career under his belt is capable of raising his game in a one-off playoff game.
So there's that side of the ball. Other side of the ball, Stroud and the Texans offense, again, they've been solid. I don't think they've stood out either positively or negatively. I don't think we've seen the offensive line issues that we saw earlier in the year nearly as much. I think they need to find a way to connect with their outside receivers. They've done a nice job spreading the ball around. A little Jaden Higgins. You always want a lot of Nico Collins, but a little Higgins, a little Jalen Knoll, Dalton Schultz. Move the ball around a little bit, run it just enough, and let your defense win the games. I really don't want to pick against this Houston defense because I think they haven't lost in forever. They're hot. The defense has rarely slipped up outside of a few plays against the Raiders, a couple plays against the Colts. They've been so consistent and legit. I don't want to pick against this Texans defense.
No. I
think they have enough offense to go on this run, right?
Yeah. I will be curious to see if Pittsburgh's pass rush can show up in a way that does put that offensive line under pressure, because I think that offensive line is still a potential vulnerability. And the Steelers, again, theoretically, they've got the horses to make that happen. I don't know that any of their pass rushers have had the season that would, maybe Cameron Hayward inside, but the edge rushers certainly haven't. But there's still the pedigree there. I mean, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig are all proven high-level pass rushers. Cameron Hayward is still having incredible seasons at his age. Coming into the season, we expected this defense to be one of the best in the NFL, and it hasn't been. But I do think it's one-off performance. Can Rodgers raise his game for a one-off performance? Can the Steelers' pass rush decide to go in and wreck shop for a day? If they can, totally different ballgame.
The other piece here, I wonder how deep-rooted we get here. Nick Caley, offensive coordinator for the Texans, has Patriots roots, came through the Rams and everything, but they're running more a Patriots-like system in this world where Mike Tomlin is incredibly consistent year over year. They always struggled against New England's offense.
Yeah.
I wonder how deep-rooted that could be. The other part about the Steelers' defense, when they get picked apart, it's usually just against a decent veteran quarterback, right? And that's what Stroud is at this point. Can they get enough? I think they got to get a little something going on the ground, Houston, against the Steelers. Get a little bit something on the ground, and then Stroud, he's had an interesting couple of years, I would say, where the number of times where, you remember a couple of weeks ago, he had the big 3rd and long conversion to Nico Collins. Mm-hmm. And there's so many times in his career where it's like 3rd and 12, and even the Chiefs game. Like the Chiefs game was not going well for about 6 straight series, but then he pulls out some outstanding plays. I think so many of these games are going to be one-score games. I'm just optimistic heading into playoff weekend.
Yeah.
If it's a one-score game, this comes down to, can Stroud make 2 or 3 plays in Pittsburgh on the road? We've seen him do it a ton, even when he doesn't play the cleanest games from start to finish. Can he make one or two of those plays? Him and Nico Collins potentially taking
I
over.
think Stroud is actually very good at those high leverage plays, and then that receiving core in Houston is really starting to come together. Nico Collins has been phenomenal for a long time, but those rookies have been making plays recently. Dalton Schultz had a couple of spectacular catches last week. Like, that group is starting to make plays consistently now all together, and you can definitely attack this Steelers secondary. I mean, look at last week.
The other thing, and the chat's pretty sharp picking this up, I was going to say, given the fact the Steelers could not cover a crossing route, do you dial it up early? Is that how you get up 14-0 in the first quarter? Just like, can you cover Nico Collins on a deep crosser from a bunch look? Can you even do it? Because they couldn't last week. They couldn't. I imagine they're going to be repping that a lot this week. But the number of times the Steelers defense has had linebackers not covering tight ends, last week not covering the deep crossers, those are the things. If Pittsburgh's going to sneak a game out here, the first win in 10 years, they can't have those coverage.
There were so many things on tape last week that would make you immediately go and say, we're going to run these 5 plays. See if they can cover them, because these are basic breakdowns.
Dalton Schultz, middle of the field. I mean, that's been an issue for the Steelers. They've had some coverage busts. They've had some general. Remember how I described them earlier in the season? Like, the pass rush was still, doing damage, but the connection with the coverage unit, it just wasn't there. Whereas the Texans are the opposite. I'm like, they're always snug coverage and a pass rush that is fierce that you have to keep an eye on. All right, man. I think we're looking at 6 legitimate games here this weekend. 6 good games for Super Wild Card Weekend. This one's Monday night. The other piece, we will be doing our watch-along for members. We've had another influx of more members. It is just a little bonus. It's a little bonus. You sign up for the membership tiers, get to join us for a full watch-along on Monday night. We'll do our instant reaction right after it still for everybody, but we'll do a watch-along here from the studio on Monday night. Super Wild Card Weekend. Texans and Steelers. Houston by 3. Where are you going with this one?
I'm going to go with the Texans to cover that.
I am too. I can't bet against that defense. I cannot pick it. I've been on the Texans all year except for that one time I jumped off the bandwagon. But I'm back. I'm back on for the duration. Texans are going to the AFC Championship. Texans are going to the AFC Championship this year.
Okay.
So I got them winning this game.
Well, they
can't believe
they need to if they're going to get there.
If you're going to go to the AFC Championship, you got to win this week. Unless you're Denver.
You do.
Unless you're Denver.
That's
you
true.
have to win this week if you're going to go to the AFC Championship. I cannot believe I'm going against Monday night Mike Tomlin. But it's round 1 playoff Mike Tomlin. This is very difficult. Something's got to give this weekend. Look at that, under 3 hours for 6 games. And a head coach firing.
Yeah, there you go. We got added news as well. We still kept
it all. We did it all.
The time.
Oh, man, this is going to be fun. Super Wild Card Weekend. For those of you, too, going to be with us, stick with us all off-season. Some people don't like to talk about off-season. It's team-building season is really the key. So we'll have we're going to be getting into the draft really soon here. Free agency. We've got some travel coming up. We're going to be going to the Senior Bowl. We'll give everybody another behind-the-scenes look at the Senior Bowl. Let us know. So we've been asked some of our members yesterday in the special extra chat, what would you want to see? Senior Bowl week? Because we might not do as many long-form shows. It's going to be more social media content, YouTube shorts, that type of thing. What do you want to see? Senior Bowl week, behind the scenes, Super Bowl week in San Francisco. What do you want to see from us? Give us some ideas. Let us know. Because we got 2 straight weeks on the road at the end of the month here. Senior Bowl in Mobile, and then San Francisco for the Super Bowl.
Check the mic at the33team.com is the email address to send in any of your thoughts.
Yeah, do that. All right, that's it for us today. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll go live at various points after these games, and we'll see you Monday morning. Wild Card Weekend Review.